Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of neat things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and a cage announcer. And I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two buddies who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Introducing to you first from New York, Mark Priaulx. What's up, buddy?
What's up, boys? For some reason, I feel like we haven't done this show in a minute, even though we literally did it last week. I don't know why that is the vibe I'm having. But, yeah, I'm not going to talk much because we got a bit of a delayed start, so I would rather get into it so we can get ourselves to sleep at a reasonable hour.
Yes, please. All right. And introducing, he is in Florida right now, although he's from New York as well. Omar Artola. What's up, man?
What's going on? I just rolled in from watching Gran Turismo. Do recommend. Let us move on.
Very nice. Love it. Love it.
We do have a lot to get to this week, so let's get right into this episode. We're going to talk about all of the fights from this past weekend's UFC Fight Night. Sandhagen versus Font. We're going to throw a bunch of these fights into our lightning round. We're going to find out who rose and who fell in Mark's very own rankings system that we call, affectionately, the Priaulx Rankings. We're also going to do a little bit... Oh, what? Pause. What is happening?
It got a little crazy out here. Hold, please.
I just see cats running.
Yeah, I don't know if the cat attacked or the drink exploded.
No, the drink slipped out of my hand.
Okay. Fuck. Well, I'm just gonna keep going while you clean this up.
You're good. Technical difficulties on my end.
We are gonna talk about some of the fights and recap them from this past weekend's PFL 7, part of their 2023 playoffs. We're gonna find out what's going on in the world of MMA. Your cat is just staring at us through your camera because he's terrified.
He's not terrified. He's fucking pissed. I just wet his goddamn seat. Is what it is.
Okay.
He's annoyed.
We're going to go to the man with the cleanup on aisle 5, Omar Artola, with our segment Inside the MMA Sphere to find out what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cages. And then we're going to look ahead, boys. So this weekend we have two awesome events. We have Bellator 298, Storley versus Ward.
Success!
As well as some, yes, you did it. As well as some more UFC action with UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Dos Anjos. Before we get into any fight talk, gentlemen, let us first thank our audience. If you guys are watching this on YouTube right now, thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you've been watching some of our videos and our clips and you've been liking our content, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing so that you never miss any of our content. Hit the thumbs up. That helps us out a lot with all of the algorithm things. But our our favorite form of audience engagement is the comments. If you like any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. If you disagree with any of our takes, we want to hear your takes down in the comments. We, and by we, I mean usually Mark, responds to almost every single comment down below. And we always...
All the times. If
this
you
is true.
Omar off enough.
If you piss Omar off enough. But we always appreciate that thoughtful back and forth. Keep it classy as always. If you want audio only, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get those podcasts. And of course, we are on social media. You can find us on all the relevant platforms at @andnew_MMA show. With that being said, guys, let us get into this episode. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Tatiana Suarez, who this past weekend, in front of almost 18,000 people at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee at UFC Fight Night in the co-main event spot, defeated the great Jessica Andrade by submission via guillotine choke in the second round. The official time, 1:31 of round 2. Mark, let me start with you this time, as we always do. Give us your impressions of your girl, Tatiana. getting the biggest win of her career, defeating in impressive style, in emphatic style, the biggest name on her resume to date in Jessica Andrade. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. As I said last week, I love Jessica Andrade, but Tatiana Suarez is a problem. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that we may be looking at a future double champ. She's that good. And yes, there's absolutely room for the striking to improve. I wouldn't say she's like well-rounded perfection, but the grappling, wrestling, size combo that she brings into the cage, especially at 115, is just overwhelming and a level above anyone that she's stood across from thus far. All she has to do is get a hold of you. It doesn't even have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be, like arms wrapped around. Doesn't have to be perfect single leg, nothing. All she has to do is get a hold of you, and she will find a way to reposition her body and affect your balance so that in the end she ends up on top of you. No perfect entry, no big blast takedown. She doesn't need it because she is that good of a wrestler, and she will find a way to put you on her back. And then the submission game that comes with it. She chokes out Andrade while barely even being able to lock her hands. So, huge win for Tatiana. She's got to be getting very close to a title shot at this point now. I know she only just came back to this division. Her prior fight was up at 125. I know the top of the division is a bit cloudy, so who knows what happens here, but can't position herself much better than she did on Saturday.
Omar, what were your thoughts watching Tatiana Suarez put an exclamation on this performance by finishing Jessica Andrade with that guillotine choke?
I mean, what more can you say? Jessica Andrade has had a little bit of a rocky last few fights. I think she's lost 3 out of her last 4 fights at this point, 3 in a row. But she's been active too, so there is something to be said about that. She's fought, I think, 5 times in the last year, 2 years, maybe a year and a half, something like that. So it's been a very short time frame for her to be taking all these fights. With that being said, the size difference was apparent. I mean, Jessica Andrade has never been the tall girl in the division, but when you go down to 115, it's been less of a towering, I feel like, with some of her opponents, right? Even Lemos was 115, right? And even she was a little bit bigger than Andrade, but not crazily so as she has been at 125. Tatiana Suarez brings the size issue that she was at 125, but down at 115. And it's really a big problem, and it kind of reminds me of Patchy Mix, right? Patchy Mix is a gigantic human being to be. I was talking to my wife today about it, and I was talking about the relationship. I was listening to Tatiana's thing on MMA Hour, and I'm picturing Patchy Mix, and I'm like, this man looks like a lightweight. And then I was like, no, 135. Fights at 135.
Yeah.
He's a big dude, and Tatiana kind of strolls around with that same kind of energy, just much bigger for her division, on top of the fact that she is stupidly skilled. I couldn't have been happier for her, though, man. I'm a big Tatiana Suarez fan. She's a fun personality, and she's ridiculously good inside of the octagon.
Dude, I think she's listed at like 5'5" or something.
Yeah,
but she seems like she's so much bigger and so much taller.
Yeah. Agreed. I would have thought she was 5'7", 5'8",
yeah,
just by the way she like carries herself in the octagon and can just towers over some of these girls.
Yeah.
To follow on the mix point, they fight so similarly. Like, it must be so easy for them to find little tips to be like, hey, like I just was doing this and it worked. Like, you should try it. And they can just easily do exactly what's working for the other person. You know what I mean? It's like their games fit so perfectly together.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Did she call anybody out in her post-fight? She said she wants the top now, right? She's going for the top.
Title.
She wants the
title. I don't know
title.
if she said their names necessarily, but I think she just said she wants the title, yeah.
When she talked on MMA Hour recently, she was talking about how she wanted the title. She didn't really care who held the title. If she couldn't get the title next for whatever reason, I think she was down for either Yan Xiaonan or it might have been one other name. But Yan Xiaonan was the one that stuck with me because I was like, it might be time for that if she doesn't get an immediate title shot. But to be honest, man, she's kind of earned it as far as I'm concerned. She hasn't lost. She looks dominant in almost everything that she's ever done. And it would be crazy. Like, she just came back from all of these issues that she's had with her health and things like that, and injuries, and for her to become champion in a year after a layoff, I mean, that sells itself as far as I'm concerned, because she has a real shot of winning that belt.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? She is now 10-0 overall as a pro. She stays undefeated. I believe she's 6-0 in the UFC. If you want to say 7-0 in the UFC, if you want to throw in her win on the Ultimate Fighter finale. What do you think is next for her? Do you think she waits until she gets her title shot, or do you see another opponent lined up in front of her before she gets to that summit? Mark?
I'm sorry, who'd you ask? Me? I mean, you'd like to say she should fight the winner of Weili and Lemos because she deserves a title shot, as Omar said, but I kind of still think they're going to give that shot to Yan Xiaonan, especially if it's Weili who wins. If it's Weili, I think 1,000,000% they're going Weili versus Yan. So, and then it's like you don't want to say Suarez should fight Yan Xiaonan, because then we'd have to wait for that to happen, and whoever wins this Weili Lemos fight that's very soon ends up waiting for them. So I think it's going to be one of them that just straight up gets the title shot here between Tatiana and Xiaonan. So I don't know. Either she gets it, or if it does go the other way and she ends up kind of with nothing, she may have to take like a stay busy fight, which I don't know who even makes sense. She might have to fight like a Virna Jandiroba, someone like that, just to keep active in the meantime if she doesn't get this title shot. But I think you got to see even who wins the Lemos Weili fight.
What about you, Omar? What do you think?
No, I kind of agree. I think we kind of need to see how things play out to see exactly where the division moves from there. Weili's been pretty dominant. The whole Yan Xiaonan factor is going to come into play, especially when you talk about selling in Asia and kind of building up that market over there in Asia. That's a big fight. But as of right now, it's Amanda Lemos who's got the ticket, and I guess it really depends on where she wants to go from that. And I think that's why Suarez said if she has to take another fight, if Yan Xiaonan has to take another fight for whatever reason, I think ideally that would be this fight that makes sense as a backup.
Let's talk about the woman in this contest who came up on the other end here, Jessica Andrade, who all three of us rate pretty highly, is now looking at a 3-fight losing streak, and quite a bit of red on her record as of late in the past few years overall, after rattling off a 3-fight win streak over Cynthia Calvillo, Amanda Lemos, and Lauren Murphy. She has now dropped 3 in a row. So, Omar, let me start with you for this time for Andrade. Looking at the landscape of the division, what do you think could be next for her?
Man, I was just thinking about this, with the wife the other day about where she goes, what makes sense, because she's kind of put herself in a little bit of a hole where looking for gold is difficult now in either division that she's been jumping into, right? Whether it's 115 or 125, getting gold, I think, is at least, you'd have to have a streak at this point. You'd have to have 2 or 3 wins minimum, I think, unless you're like wrecking girls that have been at the very top of the heap somehow. But getting those fights, I think, is going to be a real problem for her at this point. It's really difficult to say. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Jessica Andrade decided to hang it up, just based on the landscape and what she'd have to do to work her way back up. I don't know if that's something that she wants to do at this point. But I think she would have to fight somebody kind of outside of the top 5, because right now she is top 5. She is number 5. Actually, she's number 6 in the strawweight division. So I think she's going to have to fight somebody in the 15 or in the 10 and kind of put up her spot, essentially, right? And see if she can keep it and earn it. Maybe somebody like an Amanda Ribas might make sense at this point. She's number 11 in the division. I know she just had a fight, didn't she?
Ribas, yeah, she just fought a couple weeks ago.
But she's been fighting at flyweight, so you're saying go back up for Andrade?
I don't know where she would stay. I think it's just a matter of
I guess
what fights make sense.
To see her at either weight at this point, whatever fight she likes, she'll probably sign on for.
Yeah.
Mark, what about you? What do you think could be next for Jessica Andrade?
I I don't think she'll retire. She's only 31 years old, which is pretty wild.
Wow.
And how about the fact that we all put her in our top 10 and then she promptly loses 3 in a row?
Wow. She's 31. That means that she's been in the UFC since
right?
she was 21, because she started fighting the UFC in 2013.
Yeah.
Dog, she has 36 fights at 31 years old.
Wow. Crazy. If she does stay at 115, I think her and Marina Rodriguez would be a booking that makes some sense at this moment and should be fireworks potentially. So I'll go there.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Man, cannot wait to see Tatiana Suarez competing in the octagon next. It's her time, man. Don't you just feel it? I feel it. It's her time.
I do too. I'm getting those
like
tingles.
we are entering or about to enter like the Tatiana Suarez era.
I don't think I've ever had a moment since Tough where I didn't think Tatiana Suarez was going to be the champion. Wow. It's just been
100%.
delayed
For sure.
nonstop by all the sickness and injuries and everything. Like the whole time I've been like, even when she was out, I was like, man, I hope she can come back, because if she comes back healthy, she should still be the champion. Like, yeah, she's just that fucking good.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, there were moments there where you weren't really sure if she was going to come back. There was a lot of silence from her, from her side, right? Like, and her injuries were pretty extensive from what, like, I think both of her knees like took a shit.
Yep.
There might have been something with her neck as well. Like,
And
she was
sick at one point too. I forget the sickness, but she was dealing with something pretty bad there too.
Yeah, I know she came back from some kind of cancer already.
That was pre-Tough, right? Yeah.
Right. That was already something that had happened, and then again she got messed up again along the way in the last 3 or 4 years. I think 3 years.
Yeah.
But man, that girl has overcome a lot of shit, and it would be great from a storyline standpoint. This is one of those ones that you want it to work out because it's a beautiful story.
For sure. All right, let's move on. In the interest of time, congrats to Tatiana Suarez and for being on the marquee in the co-main event slot. Is a little bit of a rarity because it was so good, and also the main event for this UFC fight night, once again, that went down at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee, between Cory Sandhagen and Rob Font, was an amazing main event on paper. Didn't quite live up to the hype of this kind of a matchup between these two caliber bantamweights. Omar, let me start with you. Cory Sandhagen defeated Rob Font in a unanimous decision, shutout on the cards. Not a single judge gave Rob Font a single round. So it was 50-45, all 3 judges for Sandhagen. What were your thoughts? It was not a Sandhagen performance that's really gonna make its way onto his highlight reel at the end of his career.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody kind of can have those performances, especially when they're injured or if they get injured in there. You can remember Conor McGregor didn't have 100% when it came to beating the shit out of people when it came to the first Max Holloway fight that he had, right? He blew out his knee and he was on top of him for essentially 2 rounds. Things happen. People have to adjust. Cory would have been a dumbass to try to go out there and strike with a striker like Rob Font with an arm and a half. So he did what he had to do. It wasn't super exciting. Probably won't watch that fight again. But you can't deny the fact that Cory Sandhagen was dominant in that fight with one arm. And you also can't deny that Cory Sandhagen looked kind of like made it easy. There wasn't a ton of resistance when it came to Rob Font's game, especially when it came to the takedowns, the repeated takedowns, the top game that was just so heavy. And anytime Rob Font tried to get a little bit of momentum, a little bit of gas going on there, Cory Sandhagen was able to take him down and able to counter that stuff. And you know, like I said, it's not visually potentially very exciting, but that was a skillful fucking performance from Cory Sandhagen.
Mark, what did you think? Cory Sandhagen with a torn tricep, he believes at some point in the first round. I saw a quick video of his saying he doesn't even know when it happened, but he believes it was at some point in the first round. What was your take on his performance in light of the fact that he tore his tricep?
Yeah, I agree with all that, really. It certainly wasn't the most exciting fight ever, and I'm sure it's not what people were picturing when they thought of Cory and Font standing in there across from each other. But it was still an extremely technical and extremely dominant performance from Cory Sandhagen. He's showing that he has evolved into a complete martial artist, and that he's now capable of taking the fight wherever his advantage is the most pronounced. And against Rob Font, it was on the ground. And, as you guys said, I understand he had this tricep injury in the first round, and maybe his strategy would have been different if not for that. But he was already going for takedowns right out of the gate in round one. So it looked like it was going to be a large part of the strategy either way. And early, Font actually looked really sharp off his back. He had the guillotine attempt first. Then he had the Kimura to stand back up. So it was like, oh, shit, like Font brought the ground game here. But from there, it got easier for Cory. I think he just hit another single leg on the lead leg of Font just now. And it's not even like Font defended badly on the ground. He just couldn't stop it from getting there. On the ground, he did well off his back. Cory couldn't really get all that much done. He kind of won the fight simply off control. But when you control 90% of a fight, it's not really that hard to score. So well done for Cory. We will see how quickly he heals up here, and that will probably determine where he ends up slotting in next. But despite the little bit of hate he's catching online and stuff like that, it was a pretty damn solid win.
I'm sure he doesn't mind getting any of that hate because he's taken it all the way to the bank, and he maintains and improves his record. He now improves to 17-4 as a pro, and after losing those back-to-back fights against TJ Dillashaw and Petr Yan, he now is on another win streak, now having 3 in a row over Yadong Song, Chito Vera, and now Rob Font. So adding big names at bantamweight to his record. Rob Font is no slouch, and with a torn tricep, he did kind of make it look easy with the mixed martial arts. That being said, Mark, let me stay with you here. What's next for the Sandman?
I feel like I'm saying the same exact thing here as I just said with Suarez, but I'm not sure, honestly. We have Aljo and O'Malley coming up really soon. You have Merab waiting in the wings if Aljo happens to lose this fight, or if Aljo wins and then decides he's going up to 145. If there's any scenario where it's who gets a title shot against O'Malley, it's probably going to be Merab. He's the one that deserves it. You have Cejudo talking nonstop. I think it's another one of these where you got to wait and see. You got to see who wins that title fight. If Aljo's still in the division, see how quick Cory recovers, and then figure it out from there. So, unfortunately, it's another one where I'm not going to give you a booking. But I will say it's not out of the realm of possibility that his next fight is for a title. We will just have to see.
Omar, what do you think?
So I do think that this is probably going to be Sterling's last fight at 135. So I do think he's going up to 145 after this win or lose. If Sean O'Malley wins, I think he gets Merab after that, and I think what would make sense for that point for Cory at that point would be Henry Cejudo. Both of them are injured at this point. Both of them probably have to take some time to recover and rehab and all this other stuff. I feel like the timelines will probably match up a lot better anyway. In the event that O'Malley loses that fight, depending again on the timeline, I could also see Cory Sandhagen versus Merab for the championship.
If it's a vacant belt, that's what it should be. It should not be Cejudo and Merab for the championship, with Cejudo coming off a loss. I would much rather have it be Cory and Merab.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's talk about Rob Font real quick. After TKOing Adrian Yanez, he is unfortunately back in the loss column, and he unfortunately has lost 3 of his last 4. He's losing against the greats, which is the good thing. He's lost to Aldo, Chito, and now Cory. Omar, what do you think is next for Rob Font at 135 pounds? Who could he possibly be matched up with next at bantamweight?
Yeah, man, it's a rough one because he's also in a position where he's got a really nice spot, but he's, again, he's losing more than he's winning currently. So I also think he needs to kind of secure his spot with a win here, and I think he gives somebody kind of an opportunity. Umar Nurmagomedov just pulled out of a fight, I believe, because of a shoulder injury. I would imagine at this point, Rob Font took a bit of damage in that fight, so I would imagine he probably should take a little bit of time off. Maybe those timelines line up and we get Font versus Nurmagomedov.
Wow. Mark?
Yeah, I like that. I thought about that myself, actually. I ended up going with a guy who we're going to talk about here in a little bit, in Kyler Phillips. Phillips is not ranked by the UFC, I guess because he was out for so long. Just for reference, I should have looked. He is number 13 for me. But this is a guy who should be undefeated in the UFC. His one loss should have been a draw to Paiva. And then he has wins over Raoni Barcelos now, which we're going to get to, and Song Yadong. So he has proven that he's at this level, that he is a ranked level fighter. I think he deserves a shot against someone who matters. And, Rob Font's been a little bit up and down, and I think it's not unfair to ask him to show that he can turn back one of these guys trying to break through here. So I will go Kyler Phillips.
That would be a great bit of matchmaking. Cool, man. Let's move on now. Unless you guys have anything else you want to throw out there about Cory and or Rob. Cool? Cool. Hey, you know what's really exciting? I don't have a lag tonight after over a month.
Don't. Fuck, I didn't even realize that.
I don't have a delay.
You're all welcome.
Is that you?
Wow,
Is that you're doing?
That is correct. Your boy figured it out.
What is it?
It's your computer, Mike.
Well, then what did you do to my computer?
I turned off
It was there this morning, dude. You didn't see it?
I turned off the 4K ability, so we're recording in 1080 only. So your computer has a seizure every time it's recording in 4K. So
now, is this verified? How can you be sure that it's that function?
Because it's fucking working, Mike.
It could be a coincidence. I'm just saying, it could be a coincidence.
This is why I do IT, Mike. This is why I do IT.
Okay.
Man.
I'll take it. All right. Moving on down the line here in the light heavyweight division. Once again, UFC Fight Night. Sandhagen versus Fonz went down at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee, in front of 17,000 plus. Once again, light heavyweight division. Dustin Jacoby gets it done over Kennedy Nzechukwu. I think I got this one wrong. By TKO in the first round. We knew that there was going to be fireworks in this one. The official time, 1:22 of round one. Mark, start us off. It was a bit of a race to see who could damage the other man first. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, Kennedy made it that way, kind of. Last week I did pick Kennedy by split decision in the end. I had said I was pretty torn on it, but I did make the point that Dustin was going to be far and away the highest level striker that Kennedy Nzechukwu had been standing across thus far. And, Jacoby's a proven striker on many different levels at this point in his career. And to go back to my initial point, I just don't know if Kennedy coming out and walking down that type of credentialed striker in zombie-type fashion was the right way for him to be going about things. Even as I was watching it and seeing the way that Kennedy was choosing to pressure, I was like, this guy's going to fucking walk into a shot. And it's exactly what he did. Jacoby's timing is too good to just play that game that aggressively that early in the fight when Jacoby is fresh as a daisy. And it's a huge KO for him. He lands, perfect counter, puts him out. And it's big for him. He's had a couple tough losses lately, so now he bounces back in a huge way, statement way, and he should be setting himself up for a nice fight.
Omar, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, Jacoby really landed on him on the chin there. I feel like I wish I would have went back and rewatched it, but I feel like I was not 100% okay with that stoppage. I felt like it was a little early. Like I said, I wish I would go back and be able to watch it right now, but I don't want to.
20% of me was like,
yeah.
But it didn't bother me.
And let's be clear, he got clipped on the chin, his legs gave out, he went down on the ground, he was conscious, and then he took a couple of extra ones.
Yeah.
But he was still there, and I think that was really the problem that I kind of had. He looked like he was ready to, he was going to defend himself. I don't think it was one of those where he was turtling up and nothing was going to change. I still had the feeling like the fight was still on.
What made me feel okay was that him sitting all the way up and being like, only happened when Jacoby got removed. So I was like, you know what? Maybe if he didn't get removed, it would have been two more punches without Kennedy even being able to sit up. So that's why I was kind of like...
Yeah, I thought he did turtle up a little bit, and it was the unfortunate circumstance where, the instant you could see that the referee has committed to intervening is as the referee is putting his arm in to stop the fight is when Nzechukwu is like, okay, I have to sit up at some point.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't an egregious stoppage or anything like that. Like I'm not going to go around
we've seen
with-
worse.
Yeah, for sure. But I wish he was given just a couple more seconds to see if he could recover.
Yeah. It could be a fine line, man. That refereeing thing, man, it's a fine line. Where were we here? Let's talk about Mr. Jacoby. After quite a win streak, he dropped 2 decisions in a row to Khalil Roundtree Jr. and Mirzakhanov. And now he gets back in the win column with a very nice win over a fellow dangerous light heavyweight in Nzechukwu. Mark, what do you think is next for Dustin Jacoby? If you were the matchmaker of the UFC and you're looking at the light heavyweight landscape, you got you got Jacoby. What are you doing with him?
So, Volkan Ozdemir, who I believe Jacoby mentioned, if I'm remembering right, is fighting the man who just beat Jacoby, Azamat Mirzakhanov, next month. If Volkan loses that fight, I think he makes perfect sense as a next little bit of a step-up type opponent for Dustin. If Volkan wins that fight, maybe it doesn't make quite as much sense. So in that case, I'd have to pivot to maybe like a Dominic Reyes, which I don't like quite as much. But if Volkan loses, that's where I go, Volkan and Jacoby.
Omar?
Real quick, as a little allude to the MMA sphere, Mirzakhanov is out of his fight with Ozdemir.
Dude, they should just put Jacoby in.
So they replaced him with with a Bogdan Guskov.
Okay.
Well, Volkan's probably going to win that fight then.
One hopes, but Volkan is another one
Still,
that I don't.
won't mean that much then. So
Not
fuck
at
it.
all.
I'm sticking with it. Volkan and Jacoby.
Yeah. Honestly, dude, I wouldn't mind a Ryan Spann fight. I'm not really sure where Ryan Spann is or what he's doing. I feel like it's been a little bit since we've seen him.
He's fighting Anthony Smith.
Oh, for fucking Christ!
Rematch.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with the loser of that fight then.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
Well done. Well done.
At least I think he's fighting Anthony Smith in a rematch, right? I'm not making that up, right? Now I'm checking.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Singapore.
Yeah.
It's only a couple weeks away too, so it's not even that bad.
Do you guys have anything to say about a possible next matchup for Kennedy, or do you guys want to move on in the interest of time?
I'll give you one quick. I think the loser of a fight we're going to preview in a little while between Khalil Roundtree and Chris Dawkins would be a perfect next opponent for Kennedy.
That would be nice.
I agree.
Same
I
card.
second that.
Not same card. Upcoming card. Okay, let's move on now. One more recap, and then we will hop into our lightning round. UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Font. Let's see. Where was this at? In the featherweight division, Diego Lopes. Don't call him Lopes anymore.
Oh, is it Lopez?
They were saying Lopez.
You didn't hear me saying this earlier? They called him Lopez the whole night after calling him Lopes last time.
Oh no.
I think that might have been when you spilled your water.
We're back
maybe?
to
Perhaps.
in the featherweight division, Diego Lopes defeated Gavin Tucker by submission via armbar. The official time 1:38 of the very first round. Is it me, or is there something about this guy? He seems to have a bit of an aura
He's a beast.
about him. He's
Yeah.
like a really like let's watch out for this guy. Omar, what were your thoughts of how this fight played out in only a little more than a minute and a half?
Dude, Diego Lopes is a beast, and we talked about this last week, right? Like in a loss, or Lopez, I'm sorry, in a situation, in a situation where he came in short notice, he came in against a guy that no one thought he could beat, no one thought he was even going to really be able to put up a contest against, and frankly, I thought he came out looking better than the dude that beat him. And we were all pretty high on him, and he comes in and he absolutely performs. And he performs I think, as good as anybody can perform on a stage of that magnitude. So I was super happy for him. I mean, I don't know what we picked, but I think we all did. I don't think I had a decision. I think we all went with finishes for this, right?
I will check. Fuck! I only write down the winner. I don't write down the way. But we all picked Lopes. But yeah, I don't know. I picked sub. I know that.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I don't think I would have chosen a decision. Should go back and listen. But Diego Lopes is a beast, man. I'm really excited to see what happens with his career here.
Yeah, man. Mark, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I picked sub, I was debating whether I should pick Lopes by sub because of how capable we know Gavin Tucker is on the ground. And it was the first fucking grappling exchange. The first one. One setup, couple tweaks, and Gavin Tucker was done. Like, that's unbelievable. The grappling of Diego Lopes is a real problem, and I'm very excited to see this man in there again. And it says something, too, about how good Movsar Evloev is, which we do already know. But the fact that he went 15 minutes dealing with all of that shows you how good he is. But, yeah, tough way for Gavin Tucker to make his return here, but hell of a way to get your first UFC victory for Lopes. It wasn't a flying triangle, as Bisping inexplicably kept saying in the interview, but it was nearly as cool as that.
Yes. Has Diego Lopes, has he burst onto the Priaulx rankings now with a nice win in the UFC?
Dude, he has. We'll save it.
We'll wait. Okay.
He's the highlight of the Priaulx rankings.
Here we go. Do we want to mention who we think he could fight next, possibly at 145 pounds? Omar, why don't you take this one first? Sorry, Mark.
No.
I kind of want to see this man jump up pretty high. I am curious to see where Mark has him at this point, but I kind of want to see him fight somebody like an Andre Fili. Andre Fili's just coming off a loss to Nathaniel Wood. Tough fight, but I just think Lopes is that good that I don't really think it matters who they put him up against at this point. He just needs to get to the top 15. He needs the opportunity.
Mark?
Yeah, this guy is very suddenly, I think, in this mix right outside the rankings here. But with that said, it is only one win, so I think he needs to prove it against another vet before we go throwing him a ranked fighter, which is the same route Omar just went. I think a perfect guy to provide that test would be another guy who won on this card. The timelines would align, and I will say Billy Quarantillo.
Okay, another winner from this card that we were talking about. We are about to get to Billy Q, and if you guys don't have anything else to say, let us now hop right into our lightning round. So if you don't know, if you're joining us for the very first time, thank you. Our lightning round is where I challenge Mark and Omar to give me their quickest, most lightning-like takes of the remaining bouts from this UFC Fight Night card. Here we go. In the lightweight division, in what opened up the main card of this UFC Fight Night card, Ludovic Klein gets it done over Ignacio Bahamondes by unanimous decision. Omar, go first.
Dude, what a crazy fight. I don't even know where to begin with that fight. That fight was absolutely back and forth. I don't even really remember how I had this fight scored, man, but it was a crazy back and forth fight. I felt like Ludovic Klein won that fight. I am remembering that Ludovic Klein won that fight. Bahamondes, I think, also agreed that Ludovic Klein had won that fight. But it was a great performance from Ludovic Klein. Really good.
Mark.
Sorry, I wrote the bouts in the wrong order here. I just realized we should have been doing Boser and then Klein, but
that's fine.
Yeah, the first round of this fight, I thought, was a big key, and it could not have gone any better for Ludovic Klein. And the reason I say that is because, first off, for Klein, he walked Bahamondes down. He got inside the kicking range. He was able to outbox him in tight, hurt him with some big shots. But the reason I say it's the key is that I really feel like he tired him out with the grappling. But Bahamondes, didn't have that same bounce in his step that we're used to seeing coming out of that first round after the prolonged grappling exchange there. So I thought that was a big help for Klein. Bahamondes was there to scrap for sure, but Klein had him thinking about the takedown. He got another one in the second, and it just had Ignacio kicking less than we normally see from him. So it just changed the fight a bit. And I hadn't really thought about this pre-fight, but Ludovic was easily the best striker that Bahamondes has faced in the UFC so far. He hasn't really fought any incredibly dangerous strikers just yet, and Klein is pretty skilled. So, he got, I don't want to say exposed, but some holes shown a little bit in the game of Bahamondes, but a really well-rounded win for Ludovic Klein.
Nice. Okay, hopping back up into the light heavyweight division, the Canadian wonder, the bulldozer Tanner Boser, gets back in the win column over Alexa Kamer. Marco first.
Boser was just better here, man. He was faster. Footwork was better. He was pressuring well. He was strong in the clinch. And a big key was simply just that he was the better boxer. For a guy who Omar knocks for his striking, it looked pretty damn solid here. He was finding angles to land punches, to land elbows, all fight long, and not just jabs. Like, there was a bunch of clean connections that Kamer was actually kind of eating, to his credit. But there was just nothing Kamer had to deter the pressure of Boser in this fight. So, good win for him, and a needed win for him at light heavyweight here.
Okay, Omar.
Yeah, dude, that was good. That was really good performance from Boser, man. I can't talk shit about it. It was great. His striking was on point. He kept his jab really, really active. He even kept the cross really active as well. I think a lot of that had to do, though, with the opportunities that Kamer was giving him. And credit to Boser for recognizing it and keeping the pace up and taking advantage of all the opportunities that Kamer was giving him. Now, I don't know what the hell they're feeding Kamer, but Jesus Christ, that boy ate so much shit in that fight.
He did.
It was getting really weird to watch. He was getting lit up left and right. And I think the only reason that fight didn't get stopped was because he kept throwing back. And he kept landing from time to time on Boser. And I don't think Boser was ever in any real danger, because by a certain point, Kamer didn't really look like he even had a ton of power behind a lot of his punches. But that dude never stopped fighting. I don't even know if that's a good thing with as much damage as he took in that fight. But it made for one hell of a fight to watch. So good on both of them. And definitely the best striking I've ever seen from Tanner Boser. So credit to him.
Yeah, man. All right, in the featured bout of the prelims of this UFC Fight Night, in the bantamweight division, Kyler Matrix Phillips gets the win over Raoni Barcelos by UD. Omar, go first.
Yeah, man, Kyler Phillips is good, man. I think there are opportunities there for him to get better. And his current state, as much as I like him, Steph Curry of MMA may not be 100% accurate.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
I take it back.
Saying.
I take it back.
You know what I mean? He's good though. He's really fun to watch. He's really active, very creative with his strikes. I just think he needs to be a little sharper and a little bit more purposeful with what he throws. He expends a lot of energy doing a lot of random shit sometimes that doesn't really help him. But he does a lot of things in there too that work really well that I think he needs to kind of, I would imagine he would just, I think if he stuck to it a little bit more, spent less energy on the random shit that never was even close to landing, I think he would make a more efficient use of his energy and probably be a lot better in those third rounds than a lot of times he's lacking. I think somebody like him can't be dropping rounds at the end of a fight.
Mark, sorry.
Yeah.
You're done.
No, that was the end. Boom, boom.
This was a great contest. Both of these guys are really so talented and so well-rounded. You could see how high-level the grappling and scrambling was from each guy. Neither one of them could hold the other for more than a few seconds at a time. And as much as they were somewhat closely matched on the feet, I think the real story was just that for the first 2 rounds of this fight, Raoni had a really hard time tracking Kyler Phillips down. He just couldn't land anything too significant on Phillips because his defense and movement was so on point. So he does seem to have a bit of a problem fading late in fights that he needs to work on. It's not the first time we've seen that. He did do enough in the first 10 minutes to get this done, but yeah, I really feel like Kyler Phillips is like the prototypical potential guy. Like, if you're looking at him as a coach, you must be like, oh my God, this guy could be so good. And I don't want to say he's not trying hard, because I'm sure he 100% is, but it's almost like you watch him and you're like, damn, dude, like, if you just dialed it up like one notch, like a little more aggressive, tried a little more to like land meaningful shots. Like, it seems like there is so much talent there and that he could be legitimately elite. But it almost seems like he just kind of relies on the talent and not coasts. I'm not trying to insult the guy because he's really good. But all I'm trying to say, I guess, is that there is a lot more potential that I think can be unlocked.
Agreed.
Okay. In the welterweight division, the Guyanese Carlston Harris gets it done over Jeremiah Wells by submission via anaconda choke, technical submission, in the third round. Mark, staying with you. Take it.
Wells spent the first 10 minutes of this fight looking like an absolute wrestling and grappling athletic monster. I mean, he really looked fantastic. And props to Carlston Harris because he endured all of that, and he kept himself safe through all 10 of those minutes and in some tough spots like that ninja choke that he survived. And then in round 3, Wells makes one mistake, and Harris uses it to flip the whole fight on its head. You know, Wells put his head in a bad spot on a takedown attempt. Harris tightens up an anaconda, and Wells very quickly went from, I think, thinking he was fine to sleeping. So, unreal finish and a huge win for Carlston Harris.
Omar.
Yep. Yeah, I'll just add that the choke that he was able to get there was a blood choke. And those things are some of the most deceptive chokes because as somebody who's, if you're in a choke, like a regular rear naked choke, for example, or something like that, you can feel that moment where you're not able to breathe anymore, right? That moment where you take in and you get a nice big gasp of air and you don't get anything. Nothing is working. You're still breathing in a blood choke. A lot of the times these dudes pass out because there's no blood going to their brain. And that is a slow burn, and you kind of don't even realize it's happening until you're getting woken up. So it's a very deceptive choke. I'm not surprised Jeremiah Wells didn't tap because I'm sure he thought he was fine, especially if he was breathing even shallowly. I'm sure he was like, as long as I can breathe, I'm not going to go out. It goes to show you blood chokes work.
All right. In the featherweight division, Billy Q gets it done over Damon Jackson by unanimous decision. Omar, staying with you. Take it.
Yes, sir. This was a crazy ass fight. What do you expect from Billy Q at this point? Once the third round hits, you already know somebody's about to get run the fuck over. And I gotta say, man, I thought Damon Jackson would be able to keep up, but by the end of round 1, that dude was looking rough. And he spent a lot of round 1 doing work, moving a lot. I mean, this was a great fight from both guys. But you could see the difference in the cardio when round 2 started. And to Damon Jackson's credit, man, he did not stop. He kept trying to fight, kept trying to push forward. But the longer that went on, that is, we say these analogies all the time and things like that, but that really was Billy Q taking him into deep waters, right? He was literally drowning that kid slowly, round after round. And in the third round, went through and almost melted him, to be honest. But Damon Jackson is not an easy guy to take out. He endured a lot of shit, especially in that third round. But I thought that was a very significant and very solidifying win for Billy Q. I loved it.
Mark?
Yeah, Jackson came out really strong here. He was the sharper fighter early. He was beating Billy to the punch, got the takedown, the groundwork. It was a great round 1 for him. But I said last week, I figured Billy would probably be down 1-0, but that I thought he could win the next 2 rounds, and that's exactly what he did. It's becoming his MO. He settled in round 2. You could see probably by mid-round that Damon was already feeling that pace, and then he took that round, and it all came down to round 3, which turned out to be an absolute war. Damon Jackson really, as Omar said, he bit down. He was like, all right, it's going to be a war, I'm in. But Billy got it done. He earned it. The guy's an animal. I mean, they both are. It was really a great fight, but Billy earned that decision.
Billy Q, man, back in the win column. The UFC is a better UFC when Billy Q is winning. Okay. Cody Durden, unanimous decision over Jake Hadley. Mark, go.
Another crazy fucking fight. Maybe crazier than that one. I don't know if anyone at all, or any of us, has made this comparison before, but I feel like Cody Durden is the flyweight version of Darren Elkins. He just somehow gets every single opponent to fight a Cody Durden-style fight, and it just gets super ugly. But he's a better striker than he gets credit for, man. He's a well-rounded fighter. It's not just the wrestling. And, shout out to Jake Hadley, who I still think has a bright future, specifically for his escape from the anaconda choke that went into an immediate back take. That was something that I've never seen in my life that will stick with me. But Cody got this done. I don't know about 30-27. I thought Hadley took round 2. but he got it done. A really great performance from him, and that man is a dog.
Omar.
I am going to take this moment to try and figure out if Mark knows what was the beef here. Because as soon as the fight was over, Cody Durden hit him with a Generation X, told him to suck it, and walked away. And Jake Hadley sat down, bleeding like a child in the shower. So explain to me where the butt hurt is coming from, because there was some animosity there.
Dude, so they shook hands at the start of round 3. I don't know when it changed into that. I was confused.
Oh,
also.
Okay. It got hot. It gave me shades of Jones and Cormier, the first fight. It got real tense there once that fight was over, and you could see Hadley had nothing to say. He just accepted.
He was just too disappointed in himself.
He just accepted it at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, it's rough. Great fight though. I really love that fight. It was a lot of back and forth. Definitely a fight to watch.
By the way, supposedly Hadley had a horrible weight cut. He said, whatever this means, he said he had a moment where he saw God. So,
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more. Catchweight bout, pretty much featherweight bout. Sean Woodson gets it done over. I forgot again already how to say this guy's name. Dennis Bazooka?
Bazookia, maybe they were saying?
I feel like if this is the same, I'm pretty sure this is the same guy from the Serra-Longo team. I know his nickname is Bazooka, right?
Please.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Let's just call him.
Let's just call him Bazooka.
Bazooka. For now. Omar, go.
Sean Woodson with the heavy grappling. I was not surprised too much at the grappling. I guess I was surprised at how well it worked against somebody like Dennis Bazooka. He comes from a pretty good camp when it comes to the grappling, and Woodson was just kind of a step ahead of him at every turn. I don't know if the size difference made a big impact, although I'd imagine it did to some extent because Woodson is pretty big for that division. But it wasn't my favorite performance from Sean Woodson. I'm still not like 100% sold on him, but the kid is talented, man, and he definitely knows how to get a W.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, this was a solid scrap. I mean, Bazookia was game, and he showed some skill. I think it'll be interesting to see him again on a full camp, but largely this ended up being a showcase for Sean Woodson. Everything he did on the feet worked. He was ripping the body, had him hurt multiple times, and frankly, I think he could have potentially finished it if he just kept it there, but he couldn't resist the grappling again and again, where Bazookia was actually solid defensively. But either way, still a very strong performance from Sean Woodson.
Nice. Okay, last one. Asu Almabayev, round 2 submission over Odi Osborne. Mark, go.
What a great debut this was for Asu Almabayev. He came in with some respect on his name, and he showed it was right for it to be there. And I really liked what I saw. He was very fast, high-level grappling technique, and aggressive grappler. He mixed in strikes really well on the ground, I thought, to create openings for submission attempts. He looked heavy, more so than you would think based on the smaller frame, heavy on top, I mean. He had a sweet Peruvian necktie attempt in the first and then got it done with the rear naked. So great job from him. He does really wing that right hand somewhat sloppily, which I could see better strikers pick up on, but we'll get there. Right now we'll focus on the great debut.
Omar, take it home.
Yeah, man, it's a big spot for him, right? Odi Osborne's kind of been a little up and down, but it's still a name, I think, that holds a little bit of weight in the division. So it's definitely a way you want to come into the UFC. It's definitely the momentum you want to have. Good performance from him.
Okay. That does it for our lightning round. And a recap of every fight of this past weekend's UFC Fight Night. Sandhagen versus Font. And now let's put a pin in this one. No, put a bow on this one by finding out who rose and who fell in Mark's very own rankings system that we call the Priaulx Rankings. Mark?
Let's do it. We're feeling nice this week. There are no fallers in the rankings by any significant amount. 4 risers. Couple to start. The first is Asu Almabayev, who was obviously not ranked, making his debut. He jumps into my flyweight rankings at number 18, so pretty strong start for him. The other, Ludovic Klein, moves from number 59 to 53 in my lightweight rankings. So, again, not any huge jump, but working his way steadily upward after he beats Ignacio Bahamondes. And then we get to the big two. The first, at welterweight, Carlston Harris moves from number 60 to number 26 in the rankings after taking out Jeremiah Wells. And then finally the big one, Diego Lopes, who was ranked number 65 in my featherweight rankings. He was only 0-1 in the UFC, obviously. He couldn't have been ranked very high. Is now my number 16 ranked.
Wow.
Wow. That's got to be one of your biggest jumps ever.
Pretty big, man. Pretty big. Because Gavin Tucker has a win over Billy Quarantillo. Like, Gavin Tucker's an established guy. So, pretty big win. We will see, as me and Omar both suggested, that he should fight another vet here, and we'll see just how good he is. But quite the high debuting number for him.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. There was some other MMA action this past weekend. PFL 7, the part of the PFL 2023 playoffs. Let's talk about 4 of these fights that went down this past weekend. PFL 7 went down at the Boeing Center in San Antonio, Texas. Let's start with the main event. In the featherweight division, Jesus Pinedo defeated Bubba Jenkins by TKO, 4:40 of round number 2. Mark, why don't you start us off? Give us your impressions of Pinedo getting it done over the veteran Bubba Jenkins.
Bro, when the fuck did Jesus Pinedo get this good? Like, he was not this good. I remember him in the UFC when he fought McDessie, and I think he had at least one other fight. Other fights in the PFL, I mean, okay, yeah, he looked great against Brendan Loughnane, but, that was kind of a one-shot deal. Like, this guy was fucking frightening, legitimately frightening. Like, he just walked Bubba Jenkins down. And Sean O'Connell, I thought, said it. Sean O'Connell, is that his name? Yeah, right? Yeah, the former. Yeah. I thought he said it best. He fights like he wants to hurt you. Not that he wants to win or even that he wants to finish the fight, just that he wants to put damage on you. And he beat the absolute hell out of Bubba Jenkins. And props to Bubba, because he is a friggin' dog. We always use this term, but my God, he could have quit about 5 different times in that fight where I was like, oh, it's over here. Oh, it's over here. And he absolutely refused to quit. He kept surviving. But all that meant in the end is that he was going to absorb even more damage from Jesus Pinedo, because that man was not stopping. What an absolute buzzsaw performance from him. And now he will get his rematch with Gabriel Braga, his one PFL loss thus far, for $1 million.
Omar?
So I picked this fight, and I don't even know if I thought that was going to happen. I mean, the first round was an absolute banger of a fight from the Pinedo side. It all started with that knee. That knee right up the middle, clipped Bubba Jenkins right on the chin. And I just don't think he ever was given the real room to recover. There was a takedown that kind of stopped the momentum a little bit. Pinedo was able to work out of it and just continue to pour it on. I think the other thing that was glaringly obvious for me was the size difference and the length difference. I mean, Pinedo had his distance management on point, and all of those punches were all the way extended out, all the way at the very end. And for somebody with that kind of reach against Bubba Jenkins, I mean, Bubba Jenkins didn't have a real answer. And by the time he tried to get one, he was already getting his ass lit up. So it was a rough night for Bubba Jenkins. The second round kind of was even worse than the first, because I don't even think he was fully recovered by the time he came out in the second. It was quite legendary performance from Daniel Pinedo. So good on him.
Yeah, man.
Jesus Pinedo. What the fuck did I say? Daniel
I think
Pinedo?
you combined Daniel Pineda from the UFC with Jesus Pinedo.
I did.
I think, Mark, you used the perfect word, buzzsaw. This man has become a buzzsaw. And he's gone into the lab. He has unlocked a few new levels to his game, man.
Yeah. He might be on that Paulo Costa juice. He looked like a physical freak.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He looks great.
Secret juice.
Okay, in the co-main event, light heavyweight, playoff action. Josh Silveira defeated Ty Flores by TKO at the end of the first round. Omar?
Dog, you want to talk about knees? Talk about knees in the clinch? When was the last time you saw somebody so effectively use a full plum clinch in MMA? It's a very rare thing. There was that whole Anderson Silva era where Anderson Silva was ragdolling dudes. But, like, you rarely see somebody being able to get full plum and just rain hell on somebody. But that's exactly what happened here. And, goddamn, it looked terribly painful. And Ty Flores ended up stumbling his ass back onto the cage and granted mercy by the referee. Crazy performance by Silveira. And I think he goes right into the finale, right? Or the championship, whatever the hell's going on there. Whatever for the money.
Yep. He's in the final.
Yep. Yeah, dude, there was an era in MMA where guys like Anderson and Vanderlei would just use that technique so effectively, and dudes just didn't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah,
dude, Rich
poor Rich Franklin,
bro. The face, the face of Rich Franklin in the first fight will forever haunt me.
Yeah,
that was like watching somebody get abused. And Rich Franklin is not like a bitch by any stretch of the imagination. Dude is a monster, right? Like, especially in his era, in his time.
Yeah.
I mean, the teacher from hell, basically, right? But dude, Anderson Silva made him. I've never seen somebody that scared in the octagon. And this is no shade to Rich Franklin. None. Yeah. I respect Rich Franklin 100%. That dude was a beast. He came to fight every single time. But that discrepancy in skill in that particular against that particular person in both of the fights, that face will haunt me forever. That was terrible.
Let's circle it back to
please.
Silveira quick. This one, it went about how we thought it would. Like, Ty Flores just did not have much for Josh Silveira, if we're being honest. All he had was that he was a really big boy, and he was trying to walk Silveira down and use that and crowd him. But Silveira was calm backing up. He had good footwork, and he just beautifully countered Flores for as long as that fight lasted. He saw the shots, timed the shots, and, of course, eventually found that big knee we just ran through. So Flores didn't love the stoppage, but I was fine with it, and really nicely done for Silveira.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, he was all over the place. That was a perfectly good stoppage.
Gabriel Braga gets it done by split decision over Long Island's own Chris Wade. Mark, what are your thoughts?
I loved Chris Wade's pace that he came out with in this fight. He just looked infinitely more like ready to fight, quote unquote, than he has looked recently. But Braga was ready, man. You know, Wade certainly had to endure eating some counters to be able to work that pace. And Braga did take round one, but Wade teased the wrestling, and then in round two, he hits a pretty early takedown, and it felt like maybe you were going to see one of those fights where Chris Wade's wrestling takes over the fight. But it didn't. Braga did a great job to get back to his feet and really stay upright for the most part from that point on. And as much as Wade kept pushing that pace, which I did like to see, and he was certainly cracking Braga here and there, he just wasn't doing enough to win it on the feet. Braga was countering well. We knew he was the more skilled striker going in. Obviously, he did really well to switch stances, I thought. Kept showing Wade different looks, and he just edged it out, man. So, you know, it wasn't the most dominant performance in history. It was a solid fight, but he did the job. He remains undefeated, and we will see if he can make it 2-0 against Jesus Pinedo in the finals. But from what we just saw, that might be a big ask.
Yeah, man. Omar?
Yeah, dude, this was a pretty competitive fight. Split decision was not out of the realm of possibility when this fight was over. I thought that was probably where it was going to go. I had Chris Wade winning the third round and only the third round. I had Braga winning the first two rounds. So
that's the same way I scored it.
Yeah, you had one judge going 30-27 one way. I think one went 30-27 the other way, and I think one went.
God, I forgot that.
Yeah, and I think one went 29-28 in favor of Braga. So it was a difficult fight. 30-27s in either direction usually can result in a what the fuck were you guys watching? They were close rounds. They were close rounds. in the moment, I could see why you might be leaning towards one guy or the other, and each individual round was just as difficult to score as the last, I thought, with the exception, I guess, really of the third round. So maybe 30-27s are a little crazy, but yeah, great fight overall. Though it was a really competitive fight.
Okay, last one. Back in the light heavyweight division. Help me with his name again. Impa Kasanganay.
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 Or Kasanganay or Kasanganay?
God damn it.
Now you're making me doubt.
Kasanganay. Let's just say Kasanganay. Round 1, beast knockout over Marthin. Hamlet. Mark, go first.
The power of Impa carried the day, man. You know, even though Hamlet was the larger man and managed to almost run through Impa for a takedown early, and even though he did manage to work that wrestling a bit, even though he was improved and had gotten more comfortable on the feet, even though all this, it only takes one. And that's what happened here. I mean, really, it was a few, but it was a beautiful combo from Impa. The first clean one he landed all fight, really, and it dropped Hamlet. So that's all it took. An awesome finish for Kasanganay. He keeps rolling. He gives you the great interview afterward. Easy guy to root for, and I'm excited to see him get his shot at the million.
Absolutely. Omar?
Yeah, dude. Impa Kasanganay has had some real success in the PFL where you would not imagine that he probably would, considering how his kind of UFC career went. But listen, he made Hamlet's neck go in like 3 different directions, so I wasn't surprised to see him drop like a bag of stones. Great performance from Kasanganay. He just keeps rolling, man. He's making a real statement in PFL, so good for him.
Yeah, man. All right, that does it for PFL.
If they already have odds out for those 2 finals, I'm very curious. Allow me to look really quickly so I can share if they do. Nah, they don't. Oh, well. Would have been interesting to hear who was favored.
Yeah, man. Okay. That does it for PFL for us. Let us now turn our attention to the news and the headlines and the current events and all those things that are happening outside of the cage in the world of MMA. This is Inside the MMA Sphere with Omar Artola. Buddy,
yes, sir.
Take it.
All right. So we are going to start off with a little bit of an update on one of the Pitbull brothers. We talked recently in the last week, 2 weeks, I can't remember now anymore. But they recently both got into, both recently finished their competitions in the Bellator Ryzen 2 card. Patricio Pitbull was knocked out in that fight, and it come to find out in a press release on Tuesday, August 8th, apparently he underwent surgery on his cervical spine to repair a herniated C6, C7 disc. So it seems like he's going to be recovering for the time being. It looks like he's going to be out of competition until at least March of 2024. So whenever we consider any kind of fights going forward or matchups or anything like that, don't look Patricio's way. Next on the list, so we all know that Wonderboy Thompson declined to fight Michelle Pinedo at a recent UFC event. Again, I can't even remember what the fuck it was. 291 is what it was.
Yeah.
So as a result of Pinedo missing weight by 3 pounds, effectively weighing in, I think, at 174 pounds. A lot of things about him not essentially trying to cut weight the entire time. The extra allowed weight or time that he got to cut additional weight, he declined to take it. And Wonderboy was like, I'm not about that life anymore. Supposedly he stopped sweating. So for him to continue to try to cut weight through sweating, if that's true, wasn't really going to do anything other than just hurt his body. Because when you cut weight, you can stop sweating. And you should not get to that point because that means you're doing something really wrong with your weight cut. But that can happen. Anyway, the whole thing is that everybody's in the MMA world, including pundits and just fans and things like that, know that Wonderboy effectively got shafted that night because he was not paid for having made weight, and he did make weight at 170 pounds. So currently, Dana White was asked about this at a presser, and he said that they're working it out. But he also said that guys don't get paid to just not fight. and that Wonder Boy declined the fight. And I really hate that take, like a lot. Like, I get where Dana White's coming from, and he's a businessman. He kind of has to do it from that perspective. But he does this a lot where he likes to frame the narrative a certain way where, again, we're putting the fault and the onus on somebody who did his job. And at no point was Dana White like, Michel Pinedo fucked that up. He should have made weight.
Did you see the full interview, though?
No. Did he give Pinedo shit?
No, but he went on to say that they are looking at trying to turn Wonder Boy around quickly so the camp is not wasted, and that if they can't, then they'll
reimburse him.
Will reimburse guys for the cost of their camps and stuff.
Yeah, I just don't like the fact that guys are weighing in and not getting show money.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The weight cut is a serious thing to do. That shit is...
That's true.
To some extent, it for some people, it's harder than the fight itself. Whether that's good or bad, I guess, is really a different topic. But the reality is that's a fight in and of itself, and to not get paid for doing your job, I think just is a little bullshit. But
no, you're not wrong.
That's where we're at.
I saw Luke Thomas say that in the contract, there is no provision that says that guys are entitled to compensation for cutting weight if the fight doesn't happen.
Nope.
So,
and there never has been.
I wonder if it's just a confusion of the language used of like show money. If some people think it means like you get paid to show up, but it's at the completion of the bout, and if the bout doesn't happen, they don't have to pay you.
Yeah, and I think they need to clarify that language. I think going forward, that'd be one of those things where, I know we keep the term union keeps getting thrown around and things like that, but frankly, I think that's one of those things that all fighters should want, is to know legally that when they show up and they cut weight, regardless of what the other asshole on the other end is doing, that when they make weight, they can at least walk away with the half paycheck that they were promised from coming and doing their job. But I don't think this narrative that the onus was on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to take that fight regardless of the 3 pounds, I think is bullshit. And Dana White knows more than anybody. Dana White's been in this game for however long. He knows about weight bullies. He sees them. Like, it's crazy to me that we're not talking more about the fact that Pinedo missed weight and we're giving Wonderboy all of the bullshit. I think it's crazy.
I mean, yeah, to your point, I didn't know that about the whole your body stops sweating at some point when you cut and cut and cut. And it's like, dude, if you're so big that you get your body down to a point where it starts to shut down and you're still three pounds away from the weight limit, then it's like you can't fight at welterweight, dude. You can't.
But
dude, you definitely knew that, dude. There's been plenty of guys who have said their body stopped sweating before.
I've never heard that before. No, I've never heard that.
Really?
No.
Wonderboy was also talking about how Pinedo was like lifting weights though and doing a lot of shit that you don't want to do when you're cutting weight. And he was talking about how he kind of suspected that he wasn't going to make weight for this fight, and he wasn't surprised when this happened. He was pissed off when it happened, and he kind of assumed that he would be a professional and on weight day he would have figured it out, but that didn't seem to be the case. But if he kept cutting weight, let's say if he really stopped sweating for real, you keep cutting weight like that, you just take out the liquid, the water from your organs. Yeah. And that's where you start getting like kidney failure and all kinds of crazy fucking things. So you don't want to keep cutting weight, but at the same time, you should have been way better prepared to cut that weight properly before you got to the point that he got at. So
yeah, I mean, it's easy to be on Wonderboy's side in this. It's like,
I agree.
In terms of, given his age, I don't know exactly what it is. It's not pulled up in front of me, but he's got to be in his mid to late 30s. I think he's like 37, 38 off the top of my head.
He might be 40, dog.
And he apparently, he might be 40. He apparently thinks that or believes that he still could have possibly one last run at the title in him. So for the fact that him being like, you know what, I'm a welterweight and I'm not here to fight a middleweight, because this guy, Michel Pinedo, he's basically a middleweight who's sucking all the way down to 171 pounds, and he can't even do that. So You know what? I'm trying to fight welterweights. I'm trying to get to the welterweight title shot again. So I'm not here about to fight a middleweight. So good for him for sticking to his guns.
Yeah, I agree.
I have no issue with it at all from his perspective.
Yeah. He is 40 years old, by the way.
He's 40, okay.
Fucking guy looks... Wow. He's still so good. He's so good.
Dude, that Holland fight? Oh, my God.
He's so fast, man.
But dude, one last thing, just to belabor the point. We were deprived of a great, exciting fight in that matchup, man. When that was made, it was kind of like, oh my god.
Yeah. But this is on Pinedo as far as I'm concerned. The same way the whole Jan Aljo thing, like everybody gave Aljo all kinds of shit. That was Jan's fault. Like you guys can give Aljo all kinds of shit you want, it's whatever. But that was Jan's fault, and this was Pinedo's fault. So I just hope people recognize that in the end.
This is true.
Next on the list, we have some updates about BKFC. So it turns out BKFC has only been legal in 10 states currently. Those are there are only 10 states that will currently grant them a license to host an event. The Association of Boxing Commissioners has been heavily against BKFC for a while, which is why it's been difficult for them to get a lot of approval across the United States. But the Association of Boxing Commissioners voted to approve the unified rules for bare knuckle boxing in the United States as of last week. So all it really means is that now that there's a rule set that's approved, it'll be easier for them to get licensed in all the other commissions in the 50 states. So you might be seeing BKFC in a lot more places across the United States now that things are working out for them. So good on them. Pretty happy for them. I do love me some bare knuckle fighting. It is a good time. Next on the list, I don't think we talked about it last week. I don't remember when the hell it came out, but Mike Tyson is coaching Francis Ngannou for this boxing match against Tyson Fury.
Yep.
That's some shit right there, especially considering Tyson Fury is literally named after Mike Tyson.
Yeah, and he gets along with him really well, to my knowledge, unless they've
and the
had
family
falling out. But my knowledge, he's like close with wow, I'm blanking. Tyson Fury's dad. What is his first name? Fucking John. But yeah, to my knowledge, he's close with all of them. So a little bit out of left field.
A little bit. I'm really, I don't know. I'm interested. I'm super interested to see what happened. Obviously, it's like we all know what should happen, but I am intrigued. I can't tell you I'm not.
Yeah, man.
Clarissa Shields back in the news. Apparently, she has re-signed with PFL for a multi-million-dollar or multi-year agreement. Excuse me. Apparently, she will. I believe she's going to be competing on the pay-per-view side of the PFL, that super fight division, whatever the hell's going on there. There isn't any information on who she's going to be fighting next. I'm sure that whole brand is still building itself, but I would expect Clarissa Shields to be a part of those events. So keep an eye out for that.
She's also trying to get Keith Thurman to fight her in a intergender boxing match.
I saw that. I gotta be honest, man. I really don't hate it. If they're the same, if they're the same weight, I don't. What's the difference? What's the problem?
I can't imagine it goes very well for her, but I would watch it.
I mean, what's the real difference at that point? If they're both elite in their skill set, is the only real difference that he's a man and she's a woman?
I mean, it's not a negligible difference.
I don't know if they're the same. If they're the same weight, I mean, it's not like if they're the same weight and the skill set. Arguably, her skill set might be a little bit better. Who knows?
Do you really want to run this experiment?
I do.
Really?
So if
you want
100%,
you would
if
want to
Ronda Rousey fought Aljamain Sterling, you don't think that's a mismatch?
In an MMA fight or in a grappling event? Because
either one.
No, in grappling, I see it. I would see it. I don't have a problem with that.
Well,
in
sure.
MMA,
in grappling where somebody can tap out, sure.
I'm not saying a problem with it. I'm saying it's a mismatch. Like you're making it seem like the male-female aspect is not a large advantage. Like you don't think Aljo would have a large advantage on Ronda Rousey?
But I also think MMA is completely a different skill set. Like at the end of the day, Clarissa and Thurman only really are going to end up using their hands. So it's really about the skill and the technique that comes from it. Power is obviously going to be a big deal, but you know, I'd still be interested to see it. I don't really think it's one of these things that's like
Jesus.
I do. I don't see what the problem is. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that serious. I think if they're the same, my issue is that women generally tend to be smaller than men. But if these people are essentially the same size and they're the same weight, you're going to tell me that the only reason that they can't fight is because they're a man and a woman? I'm not.
I mean, China was the Intercontinental Champion, so.
Hey, man, if Clarissa Shields signs up for it, I guess I would check it out to see what happens.
Yeah, I the only reason at this point I really wouldn't want to see it is because Thurman doesn't even sound like he would want to actually put up a fight. I guess like he's I don't know if he's maybe talking shit or something like that. But if we're gonna do something like that, then fight for real. Let's make it a real competition and let's see what happens. I think it would be interesting. Clarissa Shields is not somebody coming out of left field. Like she is arguably one of the best female boxers right now. So
at the risk of this show going completely off the rails, let me ask you this.
Yeah, we're losing a lot of time in the sphere here right now.
Let me ask you this.
It's true.
Would you be in favor of completely flattening the gender divide in MMA? So there is only one bantamweight division, and women and men can all. Let me just put it out there. Women and men can all compete at 135 pounds. Would you be in favor of that?
The only reason I wouldn't is because of the size difference that guys have just based on the way that they weight cut in MMA. They don't weight cut the same way in boxing. They just don't. It's not the same.
But dude, you just said if it's the same weight, you don't mind.
But it's not the same weight because if they weigh in at a certain weight, you're going to talk like Aljo and shit. Like when Ronda Rousey weighs in at 135 pounds, she probably goes up to like maybe 140. When Aljo weighs in at 135 pounds, he probably goes up to 150 pounds. It's not the same weight.
Hold on. I thought that's what you were saying about Clarissa Shields and this guy.
No, those two seem to be around the same like size, give or take.
Okay.
She's
so
taller
I'm not.
than him.
Yeah,
She's taller than him?
this is not something. That's what I'm saying. This is not. MMA gets fucking egregious with the weight cuts. I don't think it's that bad when it comes to boxing, personally, unless I've completely missed something. But the ones that I've seen don't really seem like they're crazy with the way that they cut weight. They also have 30 other divisions they can play around with that are like separated by 2 pounds. So there's also that.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Fight announcements, and then we can keep it moving. Let's start here. Lando Venata is out against his fight with Mike Breeden. Terrence McKinney will be stepping in last minute to fight him. That is going down, obviously, this weekend. We will be getting to, or maybe we'll be getting to that. Not even sure. We'll see. And then we also have Brady Highstand out against his fight against Damon Blackshear. Blackshear will be facing Jose Johnson. Again, that will be also going down this weekend. Jeff Neal has withdrawn from his fight with Ian Gary next weekend due to an undisclosed health issue. Ian Gary has hinted potentially at a fight with Neil Magny if they can make it happen. Obviously, 292 is relatively close and around the corner, so hopefully they can figure something out for Ian Gary that makes sense. Ian Gary there's a video of Ian Gary getting the phone call and being told what it was, and Ian Gary was none too impressed. So he is hinting that Jeff Neal pulled a bitch move.
Well, they are no fan of each other, so
seems like
they've been going at it.
Next on the list, we alluded to this earlier. Azamat Mirzakhanov is out against his fight with Volkan Ozdemir. Ozdemir will now be fighting Bogdan Guzkov. That will still be going down at UFC Paris on September 2nd. Israel Adesanya finally getting officially the match with Sean Strickland. Seems like they worked out those visa issues. That fight will be headlining UFC 293 on September 9th for the UFC middleweight title.
Yes.
Next on the list, we have Brian Battle, Super Saiyan Brian Battle, back in our lives versus AJ Fletcher. That fight has been added to UFC's Vegas card on September 23rd. Bill Algeo versus Alexander Hernandez. A straight up banger.
That's
added
right.
to UFC Vegas 80 on October 7th. Casey O'Neill out of her fight at 293 with with Vivian Araujo. Jennifer Maia has stepping in to face Vivian Araujo on October 14th. On that same card, David Dvorak will be fighting Tatsuro Taira.
The step up is finally happening.
Again, UFC Vegas 81 on October 14th. Last couple we have here, Abu Azatar versus Cedricus Dumas has been added to UFC 294 on October 21st. And Rodrigo Nascimento versus Dontel Mize 2 has been added to UFC's November 4th card. And
what was that last one you just said? I'm sorry.
Rodrigo Nascimento versus Dantel Mays.
Oh, gotcha. Mays.
It's 2. Oh, is it Mays?
Yes.
I thought it was Mays. Mays. All right. We also were privy to the drop of the Bellator 300 main card that is going down in San Diego on October 7th. We are going to be headlined with Cyborg versus Kat Zingano, followed by which Nurmagomedov is this? Omar?
It's hard
Usman?
to remember. This is Usman. The Bellator one, my trick is that I remember Bellator one is the combo of Usman and Khabib.
Oh, well, that Nurmagomedov will be fighting Brett Primus, Ryan Bader versus Linton Vassell, and Liz Carmouche versus Ilima Lay McFarlane. Her name trips me up every time. But those are all solid fights.
4 title fights. Fucking
Yeah.
Hell of a card.
If Bellator is going away, they are throwing everything at everybody for the rest of the year. So
I wonder if that's going to be the end.
yeah, Strikeforce did have some good cards right at the very end.
Yeah.
So Coker might be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. That's all we have this week. Thank you for joining us for that long ass sphere.
Okay, let's see if we can get out of here before 12:30.
Oh yeah, I would think so.
Let's hope so. Okay, we have Bellator and UFC action to preview for you folks. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. All the things. All right, let's do Bellator first. This weekend, Bellator 298 Storley versus Ward going down at the Stanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Main event, headline in the welterweight division by Logan Storley and Brennan Horde. Before we get into the 4 or 5 fights that we're going to discuss and pick, are there any other fights or fighters that you guys want to quickly spotlight for our viewers?
Yeah, I'll highlight a few of these for sure. It's a pretty quality card in terms of depth. I feel like I'm saying that often about Bellator. Not the last one, I don't think, but yeah, they got Vladimir Tokov on this card, who is solid. He's fighting Jairo Pacheco. That should be a good fight. Diana Avsaragova, who is still undefeated. She is fighting Justine Kish. Alfie Davis, who is a really skilled prospect. He's fighting Alon Cruz, who's a pretty dangerous dude. And what was the other one I was going to say? Oh, and we're not previewing this one, though it is, I think it's on the main card. I could be wrong. Lucas Brennan against Weber Almeida, 2 guys who have had really strong records in Bellator to this point. Almeida more of the striker. Lucas Brennan obviously is a jiu-jitsu wizard and is heavily favored here, but this would be a big next step for him if he can get past Almeida. What else are we not doing? Oh, one other one that we're not doing. Leandro Higo against Nikita Mikhailov. That is another very solid fight down at bantamweight, and fairly tight odds on that one too. So yeah, a lot of fights worth watching, and we haven't even got into the I think it's 6 that we're going to talk about quickly here.
Dude, why is this card 19 fights deep?
Because fucking Bellator going to Bellator, dude. The bottom of the card is like 0-0 against 0-1. Like they don't even.
It's like a combination of like a regional card and a professional card. It's so crazy.
Yeah, Bellator's been doing that a lot lately. They do these long cards. I feel like they even do like a couple amateurs. Which is great. That's just great for those amateurs, man. For real.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
I don't think it's amateurs. You're talking about amateurs making their pro debut, you mean?
Probably that. I feel like
I don't think they do amateur fights.
I feel like in the past couple months I've seen 1 or 2 cards where like the first 1 or 2 bouts
really
are Amis, yeah.
I wonder if they're not even televised.
They might not be.
Oh yeah, I don't think they are. Although I feel like a lot of times you can see the prelims on like their YouTube channel, so maybe they're on there.
Yeah.
Okay, let us start things off with this bantamweight bout between Enrique Barzola and Jaylon Bates. This is a case of the veteran versus the prospect, for sure. Barzola, the former UFC vet, the 34-year-old out of Lima, Peru, 19-7 with 2 draws. Very well-rounded guy coming off of a win at Bellator 292 against Eric Perez by decision. He'll be standing across from a guy with a very fitting nickname, especially for this matchup. Jaylon, excuse me if I'm butchering his name, or Jaylon, New Breed Bates. Undefeated, 7-0, 26 years old, out of Las Vegas, Nevada. 4 subs on his record. Mark, give us your take and your pick.
Yeah, I like this fight. Bates has been very solid thus far. He's undefeated, as you said, and he's kind of getting a shot here to make his name, stake his claim. So he is the dog. He is plus 170. Barzola is minus 210 as the favorite.
Wow.
Bates will have a 3-inch height and 3.5-inch reach advantage, so not insignificant there. He is a great grappler, but as we have hammered home time and again here, Enrique Barzola is a really incredible scrambler. You are not holding that man down. And on the feet, I think Bates' length will help him, but I kind of think Barzola can ugly this up and do well for himself. So it's certainly a coin toss. I'm surprised the odds are this wide because I do like the talent of Bates. But I think I'm going to side with the guy who I've seen in the fire as opposed to siding with the potential of Bates, and I will go with Barzola to win a UD that he can muck up just enough.
Yeah, for that reason, I don't love this matchup for Bates, but I will go with the younger fighter, the up-and-comer, to get the win over the vet. Omar, shaking your head.
Chooch. Barzola, man, I'm a big fan of Barzola. The way that man fights is that man redlines when he fights, and he can keep that pace. Like Mark said, his hips do not stay on the ground when they hit. He's very good at getting off of his back, very good at shifting his way all the way to the cage and working his way back up. He doesn't accept takedowns like I think a lot of people can be susceptible to doing. And I think this is one of those situations where unless Jalen Bates can finish Barzola, I don't think he wins this fight. And Barzola to me is a little bit too slick and a little bit too crafty to get finished. So, granted, when you go up against a double Magomed, that happens. But short of that, I don't think he gets finished. So I'm going to go with Barzola by unanimous decision.
Okay. A double Magomed.
That's right, man. We're going to go up now to the lightweight division. Sidney Outlaw taking on Islam Mamedov. Correct me if I'm saying that wrong. Sidney Dagun. Mamedov, yeah. Sidney Dagun Outlaw, the 31-year-old out of Pennsylvania, 16-5 as a pro, with 8 submission victories on his record. Looking to get back in the win column after losing to Musayev back in July of last year. He will be standing across from the Russian out of, you might guess, Dagestan. You'd be right. Islam Mamedov, 34-year-old out of Dagestan, 22-2 with 1 draw, 10 submission victories of his own on his record, riding back-to-back wins coming into this weekend. Has not fought since October. I'll go first. I'm going to go with the Russian. No surprise there. I think this should be a fun scrap, especially in terms of grappling, as submission grappling are a strong suit for both of these guys. But I'm going to go with the Dagestani. I think that Sidney Outlaw has the ground game to resist a submission, so I'll say Mamedov gets it done on the scorecards. Omar, go. Sorry, Mark.
I feel like Mamedov should actually have good enough wrestling that it actually puts Sidney Outlaw in a little bit of discomfort. Sidney Outlaw is very, very, very good. But I just think that the skill from Mamedov is going to be probably a little bit too high. I don't think that Outlaw gets finished here, but I think there's going to be enough control on the Mamedov side that we might see a decision go his way. I would not be surprised if it ends up being a split decision, as I expect a lot of these rounds to be closer than not. But I'm going to go with Mamedov here by decision.
Okay, Mark.
Sorry, I'm typing a text. Okay, yeah, Mamedov is the favorite here. He's minus 260. Outlaw's plus 200. Yeah, another one that's a bit wider than I thought it would be. 3 inches of height, for Mamedov, but 3 inches of reach for Outlaw. And, yeah, this is potentially a bit of a grappler's delight. And I do think that Outlaw may be the guy who has more of a chance of actually latching something up for like a sudden finish. But I'm going to roll with Mamedov. I just think his style of grappling is going to dictate more control and more time in advantageous positions for him. It may not be terribly exciting, but I think he probably does enough to win. So I will say Islam Mamedov, UD.
Wow, we are unanimous in our unanimous decision pick. Although, Omar, you said it could be a split.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Mamedov wins it. I just think the rounds could be so close that I wouldn't be surprised if you see a split decision happen.
Okay, featherweight bout now between James Gallagher and James Gonzalez. Here we go. Gallagher, the Irishman, 26 years old, 11-2 as a pro with 9 submission wins on his record. Looking to get back in the win column after losing by submission to Patchy Mix in November of 2021. So haven't seen him in the Bellator circle in quite some time. Let's see. James Gonzalez, the Alley Cats, the 34-year-old out of Shirley, New York. 10-6 as a pro with 5 finishes on his record. Looking to get back in the win column after losing a UD at the hands of Aaron Pico. Mark, start us off with this one. Give us your take and your pick of Gonzalez versus Gallagher.
So very close odds here. Gallagher is favored at -125. Gonzalez is a +105 dog. 1 inch of height, 2 inches of reach on the Gonzalez side of things. I'm a little bit surprised to see Gallagher moving up to featherweight. I know he's fought here before, but it was, I think it was at least maybe 5 years ago at this point. He never struck me as the biggest or strongest bantamweight. So we will see how this goes. He's fighting another guy who's a skilled grappler for sure, and sometimes Gallagher does struggle when he doesn't get to have that obvious grappling advantage that he obviously loves to lean on. Plus, Gonzalez is going to be the bigger framed man here, you would imagine, and he has showed that he's a tough out the way that he fought against Aaron Pico. But as much as I think it's close, I think I will trust in the talent of Gallagher. You'd like to see him win one here. He's been a little bit, it feels like, unfulfilled potential still out of him. So, yeah, I think maybe a little more grappling control. I think maybe he could win on the feet, work some leg kicks. I think he could do enough to just edge this thing. I don't expect him to badly hurt Gonzalez necessarily, but I think he can do enough to win a decision.
Man, James Gallagher has been fighting since he was a baby because my man is only 26 years old, and he started fighting like 8 years ago.
Wow.
Professionally. Yeah, I'm going to roll with Gallagher as well. I don't love all of his antics. He really, it seems he tries to be a bit out there. I'll leave it at that. But you got to respect the guy's skill set, and he is a bit of a submission wizard. So I'm going to say that he hands James Gonzalez his first submission loss of his career. I'll say he gets him out of there in round 2. Omar?
I'm taking the underdog here, boys. I'm going with James Gonzalez on this one. And I wonder if I put too much stock in this camp, but I just the guys that come out of Longo and Weidman, the Anjos, and I know they're not from exactly the same camp, but they share a lot of that same, a lot of the same training and things like that. And it'd be hard for me to think that James Gonzalez hasn't been run through the mat by a lot of these high level grapplers that go over there, and James Gallagher is able to catch him. I just don't see it. And if James Gallagher is not submitting him, I don't see him winning a decision. I just think James Gonzalez is just a little bit more active if he's able to keep the submission from happening. So I'm going to go with James Gonzalez here by unanimous decision.
Okay, now hopping up to the middleweight division, Dalton Rosta versus Aaron Jeffrey. Is it Rosta or Rasta?
Rosta.
Rosta.
Now you're making me question. Dalton Rosta, yeah.
Dalton Rosta, Hercules is his nickname. The 27-year-old out of Newcastle, Pennsylvania, undefeated prospect, 8-0, 4 knockouts and 4 decisions, all in Bellator. So he is Bellator homegrown. Let's see, standing across from Aaron Jeffrey, the 30-year-old out of Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. 13-4 as a pro with 9 knockouts. Add 1 sub to that. Looking to get back to the win column after losing a UD against John Salter. I will go first. I'm going to roll with the undefeated prospect, Dalton Rosta. I think he hands Aaron Jeffrey a club and sub loss. He's going to finish him with a rear naked choke. I'll say 3rd round. Mark?
Mike, you live for the I will not pick a guy to lose until I see him lose pick. Like, I don't think I've ever seen you pick against an undefeated fighter in my life. Like, you hear guys 2-0 and you're like, I'm going to roll with the guy who's never lost. But I'm following you here. He is the favorite. He's minus 225. Jeffrey is plus 175. Jeffrey's 2 inches taller, but Rosta will have a 1-inch reach advantage. And Jeffrey's talented. We've discussed it on here before. I think a couple of us took him to beat John Salter, which obviously we looked pretty stupid for. But he has some skills. Rosta is undefeated, as you said. This will, as we all said, this will be the fight where he looks to break through into the title picture of Bellator. It will be interesting to see if his striking has improved enough to not run into issues against Jeffrey, because Jeffrey is a well-rounded guy. But it's hard to not pick a wrestler like Dalton after seeing what John Salter just did to Jeffrey 1 fight ago. So as much as I think Jeffrey's live, I will go with Dalton Rosta UD.
Let's see.
Wait, Omar didn't pick.
Okay. So it's an interesting fight. Dalton Rosa is the undefeated fighter here, but Aaron Jeffrey kind of has I think he's got a little bit more experience when it comes to a little bit higher level guys. You know, he's fought a lot of guys even who are currently in the UFC. So I'm going to go with Aaron Jeffrey here. I think this is a good potential to kind of make a name for himself and sort of break out a little bit from his last loss that he had against somebody who is, I'm sure, highly touted as a prospect in Dalton Rosa. So I'm going to go with Aaron Jeffrey here by TKO round 2.
Okay. Dude, it always feels like a logical pick to go with the undefeated guy. It's just logic. It's like he's undefeated. Why would I pick against him?
I mean, usually we're all picking an undefeated guy. That's generally how it goes, but yeah.
Although sometimes the law of averages is going to come into play at some point. Thinking kicks in.
Yeah.
What does that sound? Do you have a cat that's like doing his taxes right now?
Me or Omar?
Omar. He muted himself because his cat is like, I don't know, clearly doing something.
Difficulties right now.
All right, I will queue up this next one.
Yes, please.
Co-main event, Bellator 298. Omar's gone. Omar's gone.
There's going to be a lot of editing in this section, or the people will just listen to this idiocy.
People are just going to watch the shit that goes down in my house. It's just what's going to happen.
What happened?
Right. Mike,
what was your cat doing?
He's trying to break into a box, and he's causing all the fucking noise in the world.
Okay.
So
all right, here we go.
Go.
Co-main event, Bellator 298, heavyweight division. Valentin Moldavsky versus Steve Mowry, Moldavsky, the 31-year-old out of Russia, 11-3 with 1 no contest, 4 finishes on his record. Looking to get back to the win column. Hasn't won a fight since Tim Johnson back in summer of 2021. Most recently, he lost to Linton Vassell by knockout in the first round. He'll be standing across from tall Steve Mowry, the 31-year-old out of Boca Raton, Florida, undefeated. 10-0 with 1 draw and 1 no contest. Most recently, that draw was his most recent bout, Bellator 290, back in February. Mark, go first.
All right, Moldavsky is minus 240 as the favorite. Mowry is plus 190 as the dog. As expected, large size advantage for Mowry. He is 7 inches taller and has a 4-inch reach advantage. So pretty huge. They run it back here after the eye poke ended their first fight in about a minute. Since then, as you said, Moldavsky got beat by Vassell, and Mowry picked up this draw. So pretty impressive to have a no contest and a draw back-to-back. That's not easy to do. Did we just lose Omar?
Oh, no, I'm here. Hey.
Oh, I heard you say fuck. I thought you were toast.
I thought I was too.
But yeah, this is kind of like the Valentin Moldavsky stand his ground fight. I feel this is a guy who was the interim heavyweight. Was he the full? No, I think just the interim heavyweight champion over there, and things have gone a little bit south as of late, and he's gonna have to find a way to turn Mowry back here, because he hasn't looked fantastic, and Mowry is a big, scary, powerful man who could potentially put him out. So I think the question is just, can Moldavsky work the wrestling and take this fight over, or can Steve Mowry manage to put him out? And I could really see it go either way, but I think I'm going to go with the dog here. I'm going to say that he can use his grappling to get up once or twice if he needs to, and that he can find some big shots and overcome whatever points Moldavsky accrues from the grappling. So do I want to say finish now? I was going to say Mowry UD. I'm almost live debating changing. I'm just going to say Mowry UD.
I remember that Vassell fight. I think I took Vassell, and I felt like I was crazy to do it. And then we were all shocked when Vassell knocked him out in the first round.
I don't think you did.
No.
I could be wrong.
I'm not trying to give myself credit.
Maybe you did. Maybe you did. I just wanted to be a dick. You very well may have.
I'm going to go with Moldavsky in this one. I'm not picking the undefeated guy, although he does have a very impressive record at 11-3.
Well, you saw the draw, and you were like, fuck this.
I was like, fuck this guy. He's not that good. He might be tall, but he's not that good. Also, props to Steve Mowry. What a great nickname. I don't think I've ever acknowledged that on this show.
What is it?
Tall.
Oh, tall, right, yeah.
At first glance, it's like, what a shit nickname. But then you're like, wait, this is fantastic. That being said, I'm going to go with the Russian here, man. I think he's going to get back in the win column. Obviously, Mowry is undefeated. He's also never been finished. But Moldavsky, he is, I don't know. I just trust his power. I like his power and I like his skill set. And I'm going to go with Moldavsky by UD. Omar?
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Mowry. I'm going to go with the underdog here. I do think that there is good opportunities here to beat Moldavsky. And I think he finishes Moldavsky. I'm going to go with second round TKO.
Okay, main event time. Bellator 298, Storley versus Ward. We have Logan Storley versus Brennan Ward, welterweight division. Logan Storley, the 30-year-old out of Webster, South Dakota, 14-2 as a pro, 8 knockouts on his record. Looking to get back to the win column after dropping a decision to Yaroslav Amosov. I fucking get tripped up. Back in February. He'll be standing across from Irish Brennan Ward, the 35-year-old out of Waterford, Connecticut, 17-6 as a pro with 16 finishes, 12 of them knockouts. Only one of his wins has gone the distance, and he is riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend, defeating Brandon Bell, Cassius Kane, and Sabah Hamasi. Omar, you haven't gone first in a little bit.
Nope.
Give us your take and your pick of this fight, Storley versus Ward.
This is a great fight, man. I think this is going to be a really competitive fight. I am a little bit torn on where I want to go with this. I think all in all, Storley is just he's such a good grappler. It's very difficult to count him out of a fight and not think that he could be grappling heavy in this fight and do work. Just that Brendan Ward is definitely no slouch either. So it does get really difficult to try to figure out exactly where I want to go. But I think even if the fight ends up being a little bit more on the boring side, I just think Storley has a couple more avenues to squeak out a win. So I'm going to go with Storley here by unanimous decision.
Dude, I love the story of Irish Brennan Ward, and how could you not? You know what else I love? I love his style, his fighting style, and the guy is just an absolute beast. I'm going to go with him to get it done. I hear you about the wrestling. It's a big concern for me. I would not be surprised with the Logan Storley win here, but I'm rolling with my man from Connecticut here, Brendan Ward. I'm going to say he gets it done on the scorecards. He damages Storley more, but Storley weathers. I'm not going to say it. UD for Brendan Ward.
I did not expect that from you.
Really? Why?
No, Logan Storley is a fairly large favorite here. He's minus 330. Brennan Ward is plus 260. 1 inch of height for Ward. The reach is the same. And I, too, am picking my boy Brennan Ward simply because I do not care, which is why I didn't expect to see one of you do it. But, yeah, I mean, honestly, Logan Storley has a gas tank for days, and with the way Brennan Ward pushes, that could be a factor here if he starts to tire and Storley does not. Storley has good enough striking that he should be able to be okay at times with Ward while he looks for an entry or a setup to bring this to the mat. His wrestling is fantastic and is definitely the biggest weapon in this fight. He's relentless pursuing takedowns and shooting and reshooting if need be. But with all that said, I want to pick Brendan Ward. Brennan Ward. So I'm going to focus on the fact that Brendan Ward can also wrestle. Every round starts on the feet. And Brendan Ward tries to kill dudes in there. So I will say that he can work his way out of a couple rough spots and blitz Storley and find a way to put him down. You know, the smart pick is definitely Logan Storley, but fuck it. Brendan Ward, round 2, knockout.
Let's go. Okay, main event time.
No, that was the main event.
I mean, UFC time.
Hey,
UFC Fight Night. Luque versus Dos Anjos going down at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. Headlining by 2 UFC welterweights. Vicente Luque versus Rafael Dos Anjos. Brazil on Brazil violence right here, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to talk about, I believe, 4 of these bouts. Before we do so, are there any other fights or fighters on this card that you want to quickly spotlight for our viewers and listeners?
Omar, I'll let you go first here since I hogged Bellator.
Just a couple of the ones that I know that I'm going to be looking out for personally. The start of this card is Juliana Miller versus Luana Santos. Juju Miller, for those of you who watched the Tough Season. Juliana Miller honestly didn't have a great performance in her last fight, and I'm frankly just interested to see if it's gotten better. Hopefully it has, but I liked her as a character, as a person, so I just hopefully it gets better because the last one wasn't it. Francis Fire Marshall also on the card against Isaac Dulgarian. Fire Marshall always brings the fight. And then Terrence McKinney against Mike Breeden. Like we talked about, Terrence McKinney stepping in on short notice against Mike Breeden. It's a good opportunity for Terrence McKinney to get back in the win column. He's had a couple rough goes. He was doing well in his last fight until he basically got caught in a weird position that got taken advantage of. So it's a good opportunity for McKinney to ideally put on another highlight reel performance.
I'll spotlight 2 more real fast. Jacqueline Amorim is back for her second fight. She's a girl who came in with some buzz in her debut and looked fantastic in round 1, but managed to absolutely gas after 5 minutes. So we'll see if she can get that in order and deliver on the hype in this one. She's fighting Montserrat Ruiz. And then the other one I'll point out is Marcus McGee, our boy, the man who I said looks like an old skateboarder. He had a fantastic debut. He's fighting JP Bays, right? Bays, they say? Yeah, JP Bays on this card. And it should be a fun one. McGee brings constant pressure, and I think he'll probably be hunting for a knockout in that fight with Bays.
Okay, let us begin. In the women's strawweight division with Pauliana Viana versus Yasmin Lucindo. That's right. I said that right. Okay, Viana. Dama de Ferro. Out of Brazil, of course, 31 years old, 13-5 as a pro. None of her wins have gone the distance. 5 knockouts and 8 subs. This girl is a finisher, and she got one of those finishes last November. And she'll be standing across from Lucindo, 21 years old, out of Brazil. 14-5, 10 finishes, 8 of them knockouts. Most recently winning on the scorecards over Brogan Walker back in April of this year. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of Viana versus Lucindo.
Before we get deep into it, any guesses on Dama de Ferro and what that means? Or what the direct translation of that would be?
Be like Lady of something. Lady of War?
Mark?
I don't know. Is Ferro fear?
Ferro is iron.
A Lady of Iron. Iron Lady.
Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden.
Dope.
Dama de Ferro.
Right? It's pretty dope. Anyway, if y'all have been on this podcast before and you've heard me talk about Ismael Lucindo, you already know I'm not choosing against her. I am on firmly with a reserved cabin on the Ismael Lucindo train. I'm not fucking getting off until we run off the bridge. So give me Ismael Lucindo by first round, KO. Let's fucking go.
Bro, it must have been hard when she fought your girl, Hadagwe, back in August.
Well, he didn't know them yet.
Last year.
That was his intro to both of them.
Yeah, I wasn't really
Oh,
too...
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't too perturbed. I fell in love with both of them. I thought it was an amazing performance from the two of them. And, you know, I was hurt when Hadagwe just recently got murdered. But, you know, we don't have to worry about that for now.
Mark, take this one.
All right, Lucindo's the favorite. She's minus 190. Viana is plus 160. 2 inches of height and 1 inch of reach for Viana. And she's looked pretty solid of late. She's won 3 out of 4. She can snatch a sub, especially an armbar. She can put some combos on you, but I tend to think Lucindo is just going to be a level above here. I think she's the faster and cleaner striker, just a bit higher level of technique, and I expect she can be okay if this does happen to hit the mat a time or two. So if there's a finish, I actually think it's Viana who gets it, but I think Lucindo will be too tricky and will get this done and win a UD.
Yeah, I agree. Lucindo is very good. I'm going to go with her. I'm going to say she gets yet another finish on her record here. I'm going to say she club and subs Pauliana Viana, and I will say it's going to happen at the end of round 1. Okay, going up to the light heavyweight division, Khalil Roundtree taking on Chris Daukaus. Roundtree, the warhorse, the 33-year-old out of Las Vegas, Nevada, 11-5 and 1 no contest, 7 finishes. All 7 of those finishes are knockouts. And he's riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend. He will be standing across from Chris Daukaus, the former heavyweight in the UFC, 33 years old, out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His record stands at 12-6 coming into this weekend. 11 of his 12 wins have come by way of knockout. He is coming into this weekend from the opposite direction as Khalil Roundtree, riding a 3-fight losing streak, unfortunately. So very much looking to right the ship and get back to the win column here is Chris Daukaus. And I will go first, and I will say that of all the guys to welcome him to the light heavyweight division, Khalil Roundtree is not the guy who he's going to turn things around over. I think this is going to be a striking clinic for Khalil Roundtree. I think Chris Daukaus is a talented guy. I do not dislike him. I think that he has had some tough matchups. He kind of fought a who's who at heavyweight recently, losing at the hands of Derek Lewis, Curtis Blades, and Rosenstrike. And I was going down to 205, going against my guy Roundtree. It's no secret. I'm a Roundtree guy. I'm on the Roundtree train here. So I'm going to say Roundtree finishes him because things have not been going well for Chris Daukaus. And I think he's going to lose by knockout. He might have to really reassess things, having suffered 4 knockout losses consecutively here. So let me throw it over now to Mark for a take and a pick.
A lot of references to trains here tonight. A lot of train talk. Khalil's favorite. He's minus 190. Daukaus is plus 160. Is that the same exact odds I just said? Yeah, same exact odds on the prior fight. That's strange.
Funny.
2 inches of height and 2 inches of reach for Chris Daukaus. And I will say that I think this move to light heavyweight could be a good one for him. He's going to be in better shape now. He has a frame that fits at light heavyweight. I imagine that his general speed and hand speed will translate down at 205. I think his power probably moves down with him too. But with all that being said, I think he is going to get knocked out. This is going to be a pure striking contest.
Yep.
I don't think he's taken Khalil down. I mean, we always hear about this grappling that Daukaus has, but we haven't seen it at all. So maybe he shows it now, but we'll see. I think it's likely a striking contest, and I don't think that's a contest that Daukaus is going to win. I trust Roundtree's chin significantly more than I trust Daukaus's, and I also like the variety of strikes that's going to be coming from Khalil over the boxing of Daukaus. And I think he finds a way to put Daukaus out as this fight goes on. So I will say Khalil Roundtree, round 2 knockout.
Omar?
I agree. I think Roundtree walks away with a body that night. I just think Roundtree, and I've been pretty vocal about how good I think he looked after coming back from Thailand. And his striking has really improved and things like that. And I just think he's pretty technical. And if he's kept it up, I can only imagine how much more he's been able to absorb in the amount of time that we've had. So I didn't care so much for the Justin Jacoby decision personally, but regardless, I think Chris Daukaus is going to be a good opponent for Roundtree, and I think it's going to end in round 1, Khalil Roundtree KO.
Okay. We are all unanimous for Khalil. I'm a little surprised, I guess, just a little bit. Co-main event, UFC Fight Night. Co-main event going down in the... What division is this going to be in? Featherweight division. Cub Swanson taking on Hakeem Dawodu. What a fun matchup is this. Cub Swanson, kind of a living legend. He is the veteran of veterans, Killer Cub, the 39-year-old out of Palm Springs, California. His record stands at 28-13 with 17 finishes, 13 of them knockouts. Looking to get back in the win column after losing via TKO, via leg kicks against Jonathan Martinez back last October. And he will be standing across from Hakeem Dawodu, Mean Hakeem, the 32-year-old out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, 13-3 with 1 draw, 7 knockouts on his record. Also looking to get back in the win column after losing a decision to Julian Erosa. Mark, why don't you start us off this time? Give us your take and your pick. Swanson versus Dawodu.
I really wanted to fucking go last because I keep changing my mind. Well, we'll make a call on the fly here. I'll make some points to start. Dawodu's favorite. He's minus 230. Cub is plus 185. They're the same height. Dawodu will have a 2-inch reach advantage. And, yeah, as you may have guessed from my opening there, I think Cub is a lot more live here than people may think, than the odds makers may think. I get it that he's 39. I get it that Jonathan Martinez worked him in his last fight, but it was down at bantamweight. Cub never should have been there. And Hakeem Dawodu is not a guy that ever really blows guys away. Like, he's constantly in fights that are closer than they should be. He lets guys hang. Not to mention he just got kind of handled by Julian Erosa in his last fight, which was a bit surprising. Granted, I think the reach was a factor there, which is not a factor here. But I do really think Cub is live. I just can't decide if I actually want to pull the trigger on that. And Cub could even look to grapple here potentially. I don't know that he would, but he could. I think the bet is definitely Cub at almost 2-1 odds. But I guess guys got to get old at some point here, right? Maybe that's what's happening. I will say Dawodu wins a 29-28 decision.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is an interesting and kind of a tough fight to pick. I think Cub's age, to be fair, is definitely a factor in that. If this was 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, I probably would be taking Cub enthusiastically in this spot. Yeah, the guy's 39 at a lighter weight class, and generally speaking, the lighter weight classes really is where you see guys' age show. It seems like the heavier the weight class, the more guys can find success in later years. But you know what? Fuck it. Just to be the contrarian here, it's like you kind of wait for when the wheels are going to fall off, but like you're not totally surprised if a guy like a Cub Swanson in this spot turns in a great performance and you're like, wow, he is still very good. And I'm going to say that that's what we're going to be saying on Sunday morning. I'm going to say Cub Swanson. I'll say Cub Swanson UD. Omar?
Yeah, I'm also kind of the mindset that I'm not particularly concerned for Cub Swanson with Hakeem Dawodu. And it's not to say that he can't lose. I think Cub Swanson's been in there with guys who I think present a lot more risk and danger in the approach. And I think Cub is a little bit, or probably a lot more technically sound than I think Hakeem Dawodu will be in there. So I'm going to still roll with Cub as well. I'm going to take a little bit of a bolder pick. I'm going to go with a second round TKO.
And I now officially hate that I'm the only one that didn't pick Cub.
All right, main event time. Here we go. UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Dos Anjos. In the main event, we have going down in the welterweight division, Vicente Luque taking on Rafael Dos Anjos. So Luque, the silent assassin, the 31-year-old fighting out of Westwood, New Jersey. He is 21-9 with one draw. 19 wins by finish, 11 of them knockouts. Very badly. Looking to right the ship here. He's on a 2-fight skid, losing against Bilal and Jeff Neal. Now he comes in this Saturday night against the living legend and longtime UFC vet, Rafael Dos Anjos, the 38-year-old fighting out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He's 32-14 as a pro with 11 finishes, add another 5 knockout wins to that. Most recently, finishing via submission by neck crank against Brian Barberena last December. I will go first. It's so funny. This is almost the exact same age dynamic as the co-main event, with Luque being 31 and RDA being 38. He'll be turning 39 this October, just in a couple months. In the words of Luke Thomas, we've said it before, MMA is a sport where the young cannibalize the old. And again, would I be shocked if RDA showed up and turned in a fantastic workman-like performance, as he has done so many times? Would not be shocking at all. But I'm going to roll with Luque. I think Luque is a better striker. I think he has. I mean, maybe I'm splitting hairs a little bit because RDA is fantastic and he's very, very good just about everywhere. He's one of the most well-rounded fighters that the sport has known is RDA. I'm going to give the slight edge, though, in the Muay Thai and the striking to Vicente Luque. I'm curious, Omar, if you would agree or disagree with that. And for that reason, I'm going to say this is going to be a back-and-forth fight. And I'm going to say that Luque wins it on the scorecards after 5 rounds. UD for Vicente Luque. With that being said, I'll send it over to Omar.
I think we're going to see RDA have a lot of problems, I think, trying to strike with Luque just based off of the reach and the height. I think he's going to be swinging upwards. I think this is one of the biggest problems that RDA has fighting at welterweight, is that he's got guys who are just physically taller than him, and it changes his entire game. I think we're going to be seeing, if anything at all, I think we're going to be seeing a heavy wrestler in RDA in this fight. I think he's going to rely a lot on his grappling, a lot on the cage, a lot of scooping the legs from out from under them, and hopefully trying to ride his way into the mount and kind of holding from there. The real issue is Vicente Luque is strong as fuck. And I don't see RDA being able to do that to him. RDA can ragdoll a lot of people. RDA can control a ton of people in the UFC, especially in the welterweight division. Especially the lower you go in the welterweight division, you could find probably a handful, if not less, of people that he can't ragdoll. And I would say the same for the lightweight division. This particular fight against Vicente Luque, that's not it. I think he's going to have a real hard time. You might see some success in the first round when everybody's all fresh and dry and shit like that. But the longer this goes, man, I think the more Vicente Luque will be able to put it on RDA. And I think he might end up finishing him. I'm going to go with Luque. I'm going to go with Luque here, third round, TKO.
Mark?
So I'm a bit surprised to see this. Not like I thought the odds would be wide by any means, but RDA is the favorite. He is minus 125, and Luque is exactly even money at plus 100. 3 inches of height and 6 inches of reach for Luque here. I'm pretty surprised to see that the reach advantage is that big. I wasn't envisioning it being that big in my head, and that's a factor because I was already unsure if RDA carried enough power to deter Luque in exchanges. And when you throw in 6 inches of reach, that becomes an even bigger challenge for RDA. Of course, he has the grappling to fall back on, and that's where he wins, especially these days. But as Omar alluded to, I don't know if RDA can hold Luque down as successfully and continually as he needs to win this fight. Like, Luque can grapple. He's a strong guy. He's pretty slick in transitions. I think you got to go Luque here. 25 minutes are a lot of minutes for RDA to not get clipped or blitzed or dropped or whatever it may be by a striker who's as good and dangerous as Vicente Luque. And I don't think RDA can exchange successfully enough with him. I don't think he can hold him down long enough to win a decision. And I really don't think he subs him either. So with all that being said, I got to go Luque.
Wow.
And the question is really just if it's a finish. And as much as I feel like no, because RDA is so tough, I'm just kind of seeing it happen for whatever reason. So I will say Vicente Luque round 4 TKO.
Okay. That would be cool. Okay. We did it. There you have it.
Boom.
That's episode. You guys want a trivia question, or is it late enough that you guys just want to
If you got one, hit us.
Okay.
Do it.
RDA, Rafael dos Anjos, has 33 bouts in the UFC.
Oh, I didn't write our picks. Okay.
This weekend, if and when he steps in the octagon, it will be his 34th bout, and it will tie him for 5th with Jeremy Stevens with 34 bouts in the UFC.
Wow.
The most bouts is Jim Miller with 42. So this weekend, he will move from the 6th spot up to tying up with the 5th spot with Jeremy Stevens. But someone is tied with him right now at the 6th spot with 33 bouts in the UFC. I'll give you one hint. This other man is also Brazilian. Is it A, Anderson Silva, B, Damian Maia, C, Jose Aldo, or D, Amanda Nunes?
God, I feel like it's none of them. 33 fights?
33 fights?
God, which one of them has 33 fucking fights?
Say it again. It's not Anderson Silva.
No, it's not Anderson Silva.
Anderson Silva had maybe half of that.
Then it's who? Maia, Nunes, and what's the other one?
Could it be Maia? Could it
That's
be
who I'm
Damian
thinking
Maia?
currently. But who was the other name that we're not saying?
Jose.
It's not Jose. Either.
No, it's not Jose.
It's got
And we're not counting WEC, right? Even if
Wait,
not-
is this a
just-
Zupa question or UFC question?
UFC.
Then no.
Yeah, I'll say Maya.
Omar?
If the answer's not Maya, I'm baffled.
Who's the last one? Just to...
Nunes.
No. I'm going to go Damian Maia as well. If it's Amanda Nunes, I'm fucking flabbergasted.
The answer is Damian Maia.
Oh,
You guys Sherlock Holmes that one. You deduced
There's something about deducing these trivia questions that for me makes it way more fun.
I mean, Nunes isn't close to that number.
No.
And Jose, I guess, went on for a while. Then he went down to bantamweight, but he can't be that high. And then neither can Anderson. Yeah, it's it was easy enough to figure it out, I guess.
I don't even think Anderson did 20 in the UFC.
Oh, he might have done 20 because he hung on at the end.
Yeah.
Damian
I feel like we were at the
record.
16, 17 mark for him, but
Damian Maia's record is 28-11, and only his first 4 fights were outside of the UFC. So his
holy shit.
No, I'm sorry. Wait, 1, 2. His first 5 fights were outside of the UFC.
Wow.
Something like that.
Wow. 33 fucking fights for Damian Maia. Wow.
Well, we did it again, boys. It was a good one. I felt good about this episode.
Yeah.
It was nice.
I enjoyed it.
We had some... You know what I really loved about it? No
More
fucking
mess
delay.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's why this felt so good.
Yeah.
We just
Felt
got
like
to
old times.
smoothly
Yes.
converse.
The other thing that I liked about this episode was Omar's cat's hijinks in the background.
Yeah,
Jesus
they were great.
Christ. They were on some other shit tonight, man. I don't know what the hell's wrong with them.
Dude, it sounded like one of your cats was building a fort in the background.
Yeah, he's trying to dig into one of the boxes that I have up here. It's a fucking cat.
Don't get cats, guys. Don't get cats. No, Mark, you have cats too.
Sure do. 2 of them.
Yeah, Mark
both
hates
have
his
2
cats,
cats.
though. Yeah, Mark hates his cats, though. He's
I don't hate
You
my
hate your cats? No, they're your
They're
cats. You
annoying
don't
as
hate-
fuck, but I love them. One of them fucking, I can't even sit on a couch at night without him cuddling the shit out of me
That's nice.
every single night of my life.
Francesca's going to hear this and be like, that's all I want. That's the life that I want.
The other cat won't
do
cuddle.
you
We
not have that life?
We have one that will and one that won't.
Her cat, Zatanna, is our black cat, which you might have seen walking in and out of here. The black cat doesn't like to get too close all the time. She's a very skittish cat. My cat will cuddle with you in a way that is comfortable for him. So how other cats will walk up and sit up on you and all this stuff, he doesn't do that. He'll sit he'll almost be like an addition to my leg. He'll just kind of sit and lay right up against my leg.
Question. You guys are married, but you distinguish between her cat and your cat? Like you have a his and hers cat?
I mean, yeah, I had Isley technically before we even started dating.
I see.
And then she really wanted a cat that she could choose and pick, and so the black cat was one that was one that resonated with her.
Interesting.
Fair enough. What a
Also,
great way
I
to end
forgot
this
we're
episode.
still recording. Right
Yeah.
Yep.
I was thinking we were.
Yep.
What a great way to end. Thanks a lot,
Good use
folks.
of time.
Comment down below if you made it this far, and comment down below dogs or cats, which one you prefer. I'm dogs all the way. Although I think I might rather be a cat. I think I might rather be a cat.
The right answer is both.
Okay.
You are both.
Anyhow, enjoy all of the action this weekend between Bellator 298 and UFC Fight Nights, Luque versus Dos Anjos. With that being said, let's get out of here. We'll see you folks next week. Throw them up.
Peace.
All at the same time.